Yeah, I think we're just missing Brian, but that's it.
Oh, Baxendale, yeah.
Well, the planning commission meeting of February 16th will come to order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Shockley,
Here.
Ms. Langallis,
You here?
Mr. Lesko,
I'm here.
Mr. Mushak,
Here.
Ms. Peniston,
Here.
Mr. Ferguson,
Here.
and Ms. DeMeglio.
Here.
Okay, we're missing just one member.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Dakowitz. Thank you for joining us, and let me dispel any thoughts. There was just a communication misunderstanding or miscommunication, I'll say. So nothing more to say about Mr. Dakowitz appearing at our meeting. It's all good. So Henry.
And I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank the commission for accommodating my schedule where I couldn't join on a regular Wednesday meeting, and I appreciate you changing your schedules to accommodate my appearance. So thank you.
Thank you. We're looking for your rationale on things, explanations, clarifications and your thought process. So leave it to you. We have some questions. So if you want to give us, summary type, and then we'll ask you some questions. How's that?
Sure. My summary will be brief. You've read my written capital budget recommendation. We are entering a challenging period, both on the operating budget and on the capital budget. On the operating budget, knock on wood, we had a healthy rainy day fund. We've made it through COVID year one, and now fiscal year 21, we're hoping to make it through year two of COVID in an acceptable, okay position. Having said that, as we move forward, we have uncontrollable expenses, pension contributions, and debt service, most notably, which keep rising faster than any other expenditures. That crowds out other expenditures because we have other requirements, salary increases, step increases, the normal repairs and maintenance and ordinary expenditures we have to make. And as you are well aware, the debt service expense on the operating budget is the link between the capital budget and the operating expenses. Ultimately, everything has to be paid by the taxpayers through the mill rate and the tax bill. So as our debt service keeps increasing, the pressure on the citizens for higher tax bills increases as well. Now let's look at the capital budget. As I indicated, there are IRS tax rules that do not allow us to borrow tax-free money for too long a period or larger than the amounts we need. Okay, if we needed $100 million to build a bridge and we think it's going to take 3 years, we're not allowed to borrow $150 million over a 5-year period. They give our investors a tax break. So if the taxable rate was 5% and people are paying a 40% tax, after tax, their return is 3%. What they say to governments like us is, you issue your bonds at 3% tax-free. The investors will not pay any taxes, so they should be indifferent. We'll give up the 2% tax that we get on the interest rate when people normally have taxable interest. And we do it as an inducement to support state and local governments to do government works and government capital projects. But because of that, they have these other rules. Now, what I've discovered is obviously there's a very extensive capital budget process. I make a recommendation, it comes out, you good people review it, it's reviewed by the council, the Board of Estimate and Taxation, the mayor gets involved, he issues his recommendations, and ultimately the capital budget gets approved. What I discovered, especially in the last 3-4 years, as the Board of Ed has been ramping up their very significant capital project and program, to rebuild many schools, there has been a gap between the capital projects that have been approved and the capital funds that we have borrowed. And in essence, we have $180 million of capital projects that have already been approved for which we have not bonded. At the same time, I asked our financial advisor to review the numbers and data for AAA cities and AA cities in the state of Connecticut. And he and I came to the conclusion that at about $400 million of total debt, a city like ours would be in jeopardy of losing our AAA bond rating. There are some other very important statistics that we're monitoring, one of which is the ratio of the debt service expense to our total operating expenses of our budget. Normally, the rating agencies do not want to see more than 10% of a budget going to debt service. We are already in excess of 9%. The challenge is that we already have $280 million of debt outstanding as of currently. So we only have 120 million of borrowing capacity before we lose our AAA bond rating. Yet we have all of these prior projects as well as current projects every year. I estimate that to be 20 to 30 million just to pave the roads, do the sidewalks, the regular maintenance, changing apparatus for the fire department, police vehicles, all the normal capital expenditures we need just to run the city. So if we don't eliminate some projects and cancel them, and if we don't cut them down in size, either by scope or just by dollars, then it's very hard to have money to do everything. If I borrowed all the money today, we would lose our AAA bond rating, guaranteed. So one thought I had is that we have bonds whose principal matures every year. So when they mature, our total debt goes down. If we replace them dollar for dollar, we can keep our total debt level, but it gives us, if you would, purchasing power for capital projects. So my thought was over a 10-year period, we're averaging right now about 23 million a year. It is going to slide down to 16 million over the 10 years. So call it 20 million on average. So like a little jigsaw puzzle, if we utilize the calendar over the next 10 years, that would give us an additional $200 million of purchasing capacity. Combine it with the $120 million limit before we get to 400 million. That gives us 320 million of capital projects that we can fund. The key is taking the 180 million of projects that have been approved that we're going to have to spend money on, and that's net of expected reimbursement. That's only if we get every dollar of reimbursement that we expect to get. So if we could take those 180 and the next 10 years capital projects, and if they add up to the 200 based on the maturing bonds and the 120 that we have for our debt capacity, we might be able to get away with doing all these projects over a 10-year period without losing our AAA bond rating. So that's a strategy I have proposed, and both the city and the Board of Ed has been requested to look at projects that are not completed. They might not have even been started, but where the capital budget has been approved, but we haven't bonded yet. And I've asked them to slide, to push them off. Obviously, the Board of Ed with $50 million schools, I don't think we have any $10 million projects on the city side. So if they could push one or two of their projects, we're going to get 5 times the bang of us juggling on the city side. But I've pushed hard on our city departments to push the projects as far out as we can. So that's the biggest aspect of the capital budget that is different and maybe has not been discussed in the past. Regarding the current year's budget, with that background, what we did is we said, we have to be very, very limited in scope. And I want to start only approving budgets for projects that are going to be done immediately. Okay, we can't borrow money. We can't approve capital projects that we're not going to do for 3 years. We just can't afford to. I need to have more accurate records. So we looked at this year's budget. We said, what is absolutely essential? If it isn't, we try to defer it, or we only partially funded it. And that's how we came with this year's capital budget. So it's within the context of looking at our bonding, our AAA bond rating, and trying to make sure that all the capital projects get done. So that's the overview and context. And that's it for my remarks. I'm glad to answer any questions you have.
Henry, just some housekeeping things. A lot of the projects were listed as new, when in fact they've been on the books, 2 or 3 years. Was that change of strategy? And I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
When you say on the books for 3 years, if they
Meaning on
asked for it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, we don't consider that an old project. New means that, let me put it the other way. An existing project means we've opened up a project number and we've started funding it. What you're talking about is something that has been requested for several years, but it would be a new project. It would be funded for the first time. That's how we use the term new.
Okay, so a little bit confusing for us because we always looked at new as the first time it was coming as a request.
It's a request, so we use the term differently. I apologize for that.
Yep, as long as we know now. A question on funding for the open space fund. It's under the Parks and Recs. So when we had the Parks and Recs director here, so it's requested on the Parks and Recs, but it's spent by the conservation. So Parks and Recs only requests it. Why doesn't it go under conservation? These are little nits I want to get out of the way
What do
before.
you mean by conservation?
Well, because when Nick Roberts was in front of us, they were going through their budgets and stuff. So they have a request in for the open space fund.
Yes,
But he says they request it, but they don't do any allocating. They don't track it. They don't do anything. That's done by the Conservation Commission.
the Conservation Commission. Well, we don't have a budget area called Conservation Commission, just like we don't have Planning Commission. Everything has to be within a department for our accounting system records. So the reality is they asked for $50,000 and we gave them, I recommended $50,000. My feeling would be if the Conservation Commission is the one that decides how to use it, then that's an agreement with the Parks and Rec. We have to put money into departmental budgets so that there's some control. And we don't have any commissions that have their own budgets, I don't think. Okay, so if you're saying you would like to see that separated into an entity called Conservation Commission, let me look into that and see if I could do something.
Well, see what your thought is, because Parks and Recs couldn't answer any questions on it. They didn't know how much was in it. So then I asked the question and I got back from Conservation, there's 280,000 in there. So they're requesting 50,000. But we don't have any visibility per se, right? So you might want to look at that as one entity is requesting, they have no control over it, and it goes to the other entity. And I don't know what the best process is.
Okay, I will make a note and I'll follow up and I'll get back to you about that.
Okay. Let me see, there were just some cleanup questions that I had written down. Well, I'm gonna open it up to the commissions. I'll go last. Maybe my questions will be answered. So you guys, one by one, I'll recognize you, ask Henry some questions. Brian, I'm gonna call on you first. Baxendale, is he on?
He's not here. He's not on right now. I texted him and called him 5 minutes ago. He has not responded yet.
Okay, I didn't get anything from him. Okay, so
Yeah, I have a question then. I have a quick question.
go ahead.
How you doing, Henry? So as far as our bond rating, you mentioned that we compared to other cities in Connecticut with a similar bond rating. There's not too many cities that have a AAA bond rating. Which one did you attach your process with? West Hartford? Were you looking at or was that a city in Lower Fairfield County as well?
No. We were just looking from the credit market point of view. Cities that have AAA ratings and cities that have AA ratings. And we looked at their financial statistics to get an order of what are the limits that would put us into AA territory. So the debt limit is only one factor. There are numerous factors, but it seemed very apparent. So for example, Stanford lost its AAA rating a number of years ago. And then if I recall,
They got it back though.
yes, they did. But the point is, that's very important information for us to know what those statistics and data were. So we use data like that, primarily the AA's, to see what do their data look like and statistics, what are our ratios, and what are the things we should be looking at and monitoring so that we don't lose the rating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So the number that we got to potentially lose that rating would be, you said 140 million?
No, 400 million as the absolute debt limit. But right
Okay.
now, we are at 280 million outstanding. That's our debt. So the rating agency would say, if you add 120 million more debt, we'd be very concerned about your rating. And then they would look at other ratios. They would look at that operating debt service to our total operating expenses. They would also look at our rainy day reserve fund. So I'm under a lot of pressure with the operating budget to keep drawing that down so that we minimize the tax increases. And because we were at one point in excess of our policy. But the point is, the rating agencies look at that rainy day fund very significantly. So if the operating ratio was getting too high, if the total debt was getting too high and our rainy day fund was decreasing, the analysts at the rating agency would say, wait a second, are they still a AAA credit? So some of it is shorthand. For example, we might lose the AAA rating with 390 million of debt because the other ratios are bad. Maybe we get there to 410. I don't like to be even close. AAA bond rating is very important to us, but those are the factors, and that's where I rely a lot on our financial advisor who knows the market and the rating agencies.
So question, so to piggyback that in response to that, what would be the change in interest rate from a AAA to a AA when it comes to us borrowing money for our capital projects?
It varies a great deal. So it depends on the market. So when interest rates are 10%, the difference might be 1%. It might be 1.5%. Today, the differential is very small because all interest rates are compressed. But you're talking about a short-term gain versus a long-term financial feature. You know, Stanford worked really hard to get back to the AAA. So the point is, right now, we are not looking at giving up the AAA bond rating as a viable financial strategy. We're just not considering it. We will cut spending and we will increase revenues and increase the mill rate before we give up our AAA bond rating.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And you mentioned the policies, the internal policies we have for the city. Do you look at that policy from time to time? Do you think that might need to be changed with the changing environment?
Absolutely. The policy says that the rainy day fund, the target is 7.5% to 15%. I've gone on record, I'll say it again to you people, as a CFO, I never want to see a maximum on a rainy day fund. A rainy day fund is healthy. It gives me flexibility and agility, which was critical during COVID. juggling money around, being able to plug gaps. So if it were up to me, 20% is fine. And I know cities across the country, I've been told by the rating agencies, where they have rainy day funds in the 20 to 50% range. Connecticut and New England is much tighter and it's much smaller. So I accept the policy of 7.5 to 15%. My personal feeling, as I put with the operating budget presentation, is that if the rainy day fund gets too large, if it goes above 15%, the best thing we can do with it is pay off our long-term liabilities, our pension and OPEB liabilities. You match your long-term asset of a rainy day fund with a
Long-term debt.
liability. Right. So, but the point is, my actuaries told us that based on the performance last year and the assumptions they used, both our pension plan and our plan for OPEB, that's the post-retirement health insurance benefits, are at 75% funding. That's outstanding, outstanding. The state is below 50%, and half the cities in Connecticut do not even have an OPEB fund. So we're sitting very well. However, I believe that's one of those cleanup things that I have an obligation to. Our workers have worked hard. They worked under the agreement that we would fund their pension and OPEB liabilities. And my feeling is, and I believe the way the pension plan and OPEB works, that if we pay the required contribution, it's geared that in a certain number of years, I'm going to say 17, in a given number of years, we'll be at 100%. Having said that, if we can contribute more money, we have a chunk, we have a good year, we have revenues that exceeded expenses, instead of just dumping it into the rainy day fund, which may already be at 15, 16, 17%, we might take that money and put it into those funds and reduce our liability. So
I like that idea a lot.
thank you. That's, I came to Norwalk. I inherited a AAA bond rating and a conservative financial approach, and I maintain that. My job is to look at both short-term and long-term, minimize the taxes, make sure all the operating units have what they need in order to operate day to day, making sure that the capital investments are being made for the long-term health and growth and well-being of the city, but at the same time, being careful of our bond ratings and our flexibility in case things don't work out. So it's a bit of a juggling act. COVID was an interesting stress test, but I'd like to think, knock on wood, we as a city did as well as any city in the country. Now, part of it is luck. Our taxes do not rely on sales tax, income tax, gas taxes, oil taxes, tourism taxes. You can imagine tourism killed Las Vegas. Okay, so we have other cities and other states that because they're dependent on other taxes, they suffered bigger blows. We're based on real estate taxes. And then in COVID, we got even luckier where people migrated from New York City and they bid up our real estate. So we've been very, very fortunate. At the same time, our managers managed well. We did have the buffer of the reserve fund if we needed it. And we've also applied for COVID reimbursements. So again, it's a juggling act, but my goal is not to starve the operating units and to invest wisely for the long term. And I'm, the mayor, the council, the BET, you are in much better shape to help prioritize all these capital projects. But I think all I'm asking is spread it out. Try to delay. The mayor did it on the operating side. He would say, do we really need to replace this? Use it for another year. If we had a tight budget at home, if we were furloughed for a while, or if we lost our job, you make do with what you have. And that's kind of what we're doing through COVID. So that's sort of how the operating and capital budgets fit together. Steve, did I answer all your questions?
Yes, you did. Perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Dakowicz, apologies for riding late, Brian Baxendale. If we did increase our capital spend by 10 million, and you may already have answered this question, and we went to the double A, as you suggested might happen, what would the cost be to the city in terms of obviously interest rate and total dollar cost?
I was mentioning to Steve, right now, those margins, the credit differential margins between AAA and AA are historically small, okay? It might only be 25 to 35 basis points, okay? But the point is, going to a AA is a very long-term strategy, and right now we have absolutely no consideration of using that as a financial strategy.
So do I understand that if your top line, as you've given us, is static, no negotiation, that all line items are therefore static as well, in line with your strategic mix that you suggest?
From my perspective, dollars are dollars. We've submitted, I submitted a recommended capital budget. Let me just get the actual number. Is it 28.6? I think it's 28.6, but we're expecting 7.8 reimbursement. So I look at the net. So 28.6 minus 7.8 is 21.8, let's say. If you people decide to shuffle that around with different priorities, I am less concerned. And that's what the council, the Board of Estimate, the mayor, and you people all take a look at. What I am concerned is the gross amount of spending and the gross amount of borrowing that I have to make. Now I can go through line items and tell you what our reasoning is, but we've come up with 21 million. You weren't here, Brian, when I started the discussion about the $180 million that has already been approved and I have to borrow for. And given the fact that keeping a AAA bond rating is very important to the city, just juggling the historical projects with new projects is going to be a challenge.
Thank you.
Henry, where do you see 21? I'm looking at your beginning of your spreadsheet and you got 22,194.
You have
have
to, Fran, you have to do some subtraction, okay? Okay, oh, you're looking at, okay, what we did there, the 22.2 million is your list. I'm working off a different list. 22.2 is fine, so that's your number. I was looking at a different list that showed the gross and the revenue, and those numbers might have changed when we redid the budget. So 22.2. When I'm dealing with 400 million in debt, what's another million between friends?
What's another million? I know. Now, I just want to focus everybody that your number here on the sheet that your transmitter letter net to be bonded is at 22,194,432. So
But that says gross. You see that says gross?
now I'm looking, it says net to be bonded.
Right. So what happened was, you see right above that, 28,591?
No,
Okay,
This-
about 6
this
lines
is the,
where
this
it
is, how-
says grand total. 6 lines above,
grand total,
okay?
28,591,972.
The gross was 28.6 million, and the expected revenues 7.8. So that would have gotten you to the 21.8, and apparently maybe $500,000 got put back in. So we're looking at 22.194. So we're saying the same thing. What happened was the revenues that were up above were deducted. So we're fine. We're all in the same ballpark. All right.
At the end of tonight, up and down a million, where do you want us to be? To which number, the 22 number?
That 22.2 is fine. I can live with that.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, who wants to go next? Asking Henry? Any commissioner have any question? Any other commissioner have any questions?
Fran, I'll ask a question, please.
Go ahead, Tammy.
Hi, Henry. Thanks for being here. Has there ever been a precedent to basically unapprove some capital projects that were already approved?
I do not know of it, but I would absolutely support it.
Okay.
The way I laid it out last year was I said, and this what comes from experience when I was treasurer of Nassau County and CFO of Wayne County, Michigan. I found that the Department of Public Works would submit a proposal. And if they had a Volkswagen, just basic functionality, it might be 3 million. And if it was a Cadillac with all the bells and whistles, it would be 6 million. And then they said, well, you don't want to come in too low. We have to have contingency. So that's 8 million. So they would put in a capital request for 10 million. And it always stuck in my mind, do we look at these projects as Volkswagens versus Cadillacs? Is there a way to get all the functionality, but without all the bells and whistles? That would be nice to have, but we just can't afford. So that would be one way to get a project done, but to slim down the cost. That's number one. The second, sometimes a project has 6 or 8 subparts to it. Well, maybe we only do 4 or 5 and we reduce the scope. Okay. The third would be, we just look at the projects and say, we can't do it. We can't afford to. A good example was, we had a project for Norwalk High School that was underway. And when a decision was made to go for a whole new high school, we obviously stopped putting changes into the old high school. So maybe there are some projects that we don't need to do because down the road we'll do something different and it'll be incorporated. And these are just suggestions. But the last would be deferral, where we try to time it out so it's done over the future years. But I am not familiar with any process to answer your first question.
Okay, thanks. I really
Well-
was considering sort of the white elephant in the room, which is the Norwalk High School, and that came along really as a surprise this past year. And it would seem, many of the capital requests for this year could be funded, particularly even just sticking within the Board of Ed, if the new Norwalk High School were not being considered.
I would tell you, we've looked at that. And right now we've scheduled it based on discussions both with the Board of Ed, Alan Lowe and Jim Giuliano, who do the construction. And the big construction dollars are 3, 4, 5, 6 years out. Even with that, the next 2 to 3 years are very tight and we would lose that AAA rating if I funded everything that's listed. So yes, I understand the concern with the Norwalk High School, but it goes beyond that to get to a solution that's going to work for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Along the same lines of that, if I may. Is there a list of projects that have been funded and not started, especially in this time of COVID, where maybe some of these projects are not as valuable or needed? What projects would they be that are approved over the past 3 years that we can halt or shelve? Is there a list, or is there a way to access that?
There is a list. I've been working with both the city departments and the Board of Ed and asking them to see what they will do with the deferrals. And I think at the appropriate time, we'll disclose them. But the reality is, it's not just 3 years, John. It could be things that were approved 5 years ago and haven't been completed or haven't been started. It's basically from our records of all capital projects, anything that's active and open, not yet closed.
Okay,
And
thank
the
you.
list is hundreds.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, of course.
Okay, next. Mike
So the-
Mushak. Go ahead, who's ever next?
Is that Mary?
Yes, thank you. You were saying that there's 180 outstanding and approved, but not yet bonded. And if I understand your numbers correctly, you need to get that down to 120.
Not really, Mary.
Okay,
Here's my problem. I didn't say how much has to be cut. The problem is, historically, we've been running recently 20 to 30 million a year in capital projects. How much of that is real repairs, maintenance, or just capital projects that we need every year? So I'm using 20 to 30 as a proxy. I'm hoping for 20 rather than 30. So we need 20 million a year. Now that 20 million on average could be funded by the bonds that are maturing. So you're
Yes.
right. If we swap that out and we kept it to 21 or 22.1 million each year, I probably could get away with 120 million borrowing capacity for all of those historical approved but not yet bonded. So you're right, it would be the 180 down to 120. But my approach is each year we get a little bit more room. So hopefully we could finesse and get that 180 if we extend it. But you're right, conceptually, if we assume that the current budget is funded by the maturing bonds, okay, that's a dollar for dollar, then we only have 120 million. And right now we're on the books for 180. And I would point out that's net of expected reimbursement. I've had long discussions with Alan Lowe and Jim Giuliano, who've explained to me that when we were promised a 33% reimbursement rate, first of all, there's the retainage that the state keeps is 11%. And then secondly, after the end of the project, a year or two later, they do an audit. They may determine that some items are just not reimbursable. And so in essence, that 33% might end up going down to 28%. So number one, I have to finance the cash flow because they're only giving me a percentage and they're deducting 11% up front. Now, in most projects, which might take 18 months, that's not too big a problem and I can finance it. But when you talk about a Norwalk High School, which is 289 million, and I'm fronting that cash, and they're supposed to be giving me, oh, I'm sorry, 189, was that right? Did I slip a digit there? I'm sorry, a lot of numbers, right? 189 million. It was originally 220 or something like that. And the state said we're only funding a 189 million school. And our 20% that we have to come up with is about 40 million. And because I don't feel we always get the total reimbursement, I figure we have to get 50 million. So 189 minus 50 is 149 million. I can't lay out that cash over a 5-year period without borrowing. So maybe I borrow that for a shorter period of time. So there are other considerations. But the bottom line is sort of, if you wash the maturing bonds with our current annual budget, capital budget, yes, the 180 should be cut down to 120.
So as a follow-up then, I wanted to ask a variation of what Tammy was asking, which was who makes the decisions about those cuts? And is there anything that is in the purview of the Planning Commission?
Again, you're getting into legalities that I am not aware of. So to avoid cuts, I've asked both sides to defer their projects. I do not know legally who does what and has the authority to cut already approved capital programs.
And in terms of deferrals, if we're looking at things, I don't have anything in mind at the moment, but if something that might be very important to someone, we're not really resolving anything by deferring things that you're recommended to be cut because you're counting on them being cut to make your numbers. So let's just say there's some project that needed $10 million. I'm just going to make up something. And we don't want to put the 10 million up this year and we try to kick the can down the road. That's going to mess up your plan if we try to do something you've already cut altogether and kick it down the road.
I haven't cut anything. I have not cut any projects. I don't think that's my authority. What I've been trying to do is juggle the financing need with our bonding capacity. So the way we approached it was, okay, we don't want to say no to anyone, right? Because there's always someone who's an advocate and supporter of a capital project. The problem is I'm one of the few people who looks at the whole big picture and says, I don't see how we get there from here, given all of the constraints. I think you're right in the sense that if we start cutting projects, it becomes a question of what project gets cut. Are there supporters? Everybody, puts on their very provincial hat and says, I want this. And that's how we end up in this situation with all these approved projects.
So,
Okay.
but just one last thing, Fran, I promise then I'll get off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So if there's an item that there was a request for $1 million, the finance recommendation is 0. And the planning commission is having a discussion about saying, okay, not $1 million this year, but push it down the road. You're saying that, I'm just asking that doesn't,
I misinterpreted, Mary.
that's what I thought.
I thought you were talking about the historical.
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I was talking about new expenses. I apologize. I wasn't clear.
Yeah, I think what we've done is we've cut this year's requests as much as we could. Sometimes it's because the project already had funds that were approved and they haven't been spent. And we say, why should we be giving you more when you haven't spent what you've already done? Okay. Sometimes we just say it's not a high enough priority. Making tough decisions. People are coming with a lot of requests and we have to start saying no. And that's what we've done. Sometimes we say no to a 0. Sometimes we say no and we give half of the amount of the request. Do the best you can with that budget. So on the current budget, that was our logic and reasoning. And that's how we came to the $21.8, $22.1 million recommended.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, who's next? Who wants to go next?
Mike Mushak here.
Go ahead.
Hi, Henry.
Hi, Mike.
Thank you for answering all these good questions and
My
with good
pleasure.
answers. The implications of the last election are that we will get COVID relief. I don't know what the amount is. I don't think anybody really knows yet, but it's in the hundreds of billions for local municipalities, local and state. But what are the implications of an infusion of COVID relief money, let's say halfway through the season, let's say in May or June? Can we count on some of that right now to kind of alleviate the pressure that we may feel in terms of knowing that it's coming without knowing exactly what or when? I know that's pie in the sky, but I'm thinking one thing specifically, and that school ventilation is something that is definitely an issue. And suddenly, we'll be looking at renovating our HVAC systems in our schools with COVID relief money, perhaps, I'm guessing. But or our whole Board of Ed budget. What impact might that have? Can we feel a little more comfortable with playing with your numbers a little bit?
I don't like people playing with my numbers. They're my numbers. But I understand what you're saying. Last week, I believe the Board of Ed was told that the ESS2 fund for COVID relief, that they will be getting 9.2 million. And the total for the year, when you add up ESS1, ESS2, and monies from the state coronavirus relief fund, CRF, it adds up to a little bit short of $20 million. Okay. I don't know that they've included that in their budgets. They don't include the monies they get from grants in their budgets. So I have a hard problem when I look at the Board of Ed, because we have to list our pension contributions. They don't because the state pays it. They get these funds from the state that they don't account for, and that's extra spending. So you add up the 20 million for COVID, which is just this year, and then add to that the Biden proposed $1.9 trillion aid package, where there will be, I believe, tens of millions of dollars, which will come directly to the Board of Ed, and millions of dollars, which will come to the city. So my feeling is I have to budget for what's known. I have to be conservative. If the money comes in, then that would allow us to increase reserves, pay down pension and OPEB liabilities, or use some of that fund, which would come in as a surplus, and use it next year to give relief to the budget somewhere. I do not know at all what the board intends to do with that money. Whenever I ask about it, they state that those funds come with restrictions. They can only be used on certain specified items. My feeling is that if they use those funds for certain specified items and we funded them for those items, it frees up money for alternatives. So I think it's a windfall. It's good and positive for the city on both sides, but I don't think it would be prudent to budget on the assumption that that's coming.
Thank you. I expected that answer, but I was just thinking that would we have to wait for the next budget season to be spending that money, on something else that you're saying it might free up money? And is that going to delay? Would it be to some advantage to anticipate it in terms of just timing on, and I'm thinking of projects like bathrooms in the schools that potentially could be a lawsuit against the city, and we're self-insured, I believe, so we end up, taxpayer dollars end up being spent on something like the matter of public safety.
When it comes to the local tax money that's used for budgets, which is our operating budget, and this year my recommendation was about $400 million. I think the Board of Ed was 212, and on the city side, it was about 188. Legally, we are not allowed to spend $1 more than the approved budget. We're just not allowed to. And that's the fiscal conservatism and the checks and balances that have been set up. But I do not believe there are any restrictions on the Board of Ed when they get funds from grants or any other sources on when and how they spend that money. Totally up to them, and the Board of Ed works with the senior, with the superintendent, the CFO, to determine how and when they use those funds. So it would seem to me, if there's worthy capital projects that they're concerned about, and they have 20 million that's definitely coming, it's been approved. It's just a question of timing. They have those funds. It's there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we haven't heard from Tamara. Are you there?
Okay. I'm dealing with your numbers, and I'm trying to figure out what is the bottom line that we just can't go over when we do this. What I'm looking at, last year you approved 139 million. The department request is, and I'm not too sure, the department request was 46 million this year. You are recommending 22 million, is that correct?
I think it's 22.1 we just said, or 20.
22.194. Your concern is you do not want to go over 400.
Well, let me break it down into the current year.
Okay.
And last year I spelled it out. I said I would not borrow more than $42 million a year for the next 5 years. I said that's so that we take 10 years to get to that limit.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, if I'm spending 22 million on current year budget, it only allows me to spend 20 million on those historically approved but not borrowed. And when I look at those numbers, they're north of 20. So I will borrow the money as directed by the council and the Board of Estimate and Taxation. But the problem is, if you approve more, or if they approve more ultimately on the current side, then we're just going to get to that $400 million limit faster. So that's why we came in at about 22 million. We felt this was a number, and I didn't have a predetermined number. We looked at the projects one by one, decided what we thought we could afford, which ones we should give a 0 to, because they're sitting on other money, et cetera. And we ended up in that 21, $22 million range, net of expected reimbursement. Remember, there's a caveat. If we don't get the reimbursements we expect, we have another problem we're facing. But let's assume we get those reimbursements, then 22 million of what I borrow this year would be for these currently approved projects. And normally those funds would be spent in the next 12 to 18 months, which satisfies IRS requirements and allows us to keep track. And then the rest of our borrowings is to be used to eat away at that mountain of all those historical numbers that I have to borrow for if we don't cut any of those projects.
So what happens if we approve, say, 30 million? They're asking for 46. You're saying don't go over 22. What happens to does it have an effect on our credit rating if we go up to 30 million?
No, but the point is, we have 120 million of debt capacity. Okay? And if everybody says my 10 million or my 20 million doesn't put us over the top, the problem is the total will. So the question is, what's the best use for that 10 million? And why are we spending it this year, not next year? People can request 50 million next year. And you say, okay, they're asking for 50, I give them 35. I'm being a good financial steward. I'm not giving them everything, but I'm giving them a lot. Somebody has to look at all the projects, current and historical, and say, what are we doing? Where are our priorities? Why are we spending this money? And why are we spending it now? Why does everybody say we have to have it now? And that's my problem. And part of it is that the responsibility for approval is dispersed. You have a say, I made a recommendation. You make a recommendation, the mayor makes a recommendation, and the council and the Board of Estimate, I believe the Board of Estimate puts a cap on and the council approves the final numbers. But somebody has to say, this is what's approved. My big concern is, right now, according to our legal authorities, everybody has these approved projects. What if they come to me and say, here are the bills, pay them? I don't have the money. So if I borrow all the money now, I'll have the money, but our AAA bond rating will be lost for sure. And if I don't have the money, who's telling the project managers what to do and what their priorities are and when to slide it?
So is the 400 million based on a 10-year period?
No, the 400 is an absolute number. If our total debt hits 400 and goes over that, I can pretty much tell you we're going to lose our AAA bond rating. And the sooner we hit 400, the worse. Right now, based on the schedules I've seen, the city moved a whole bunch of projects when I brought this to their attention, city departments. The Board of Ed, I requested them to look at their projects and they have not gotten back to me. But the point is, if no other changes are made and I have to come up with the money that everybody expects for the next 3 years construction projects, within those 3 years, we'll be at 400 million or more.
Okay.
So with all due respect, what I'm saying is this current year capital budget is important. But to me, the bigger picture of the 180 million I've got to come up with to pay for already approved projects is a bigger problem. And right now they're green lighted. If we gave everybody 0 today and all the approved projects came in, we're in bad shape. So what I'm trying to juggle is, how do we give current year capital budgets enough money to keep going and to make the investments that we can over a period of time, while at the same time trying to spend down the backlog without canceling any projects. Now, maybe the answer is we should cancel a couple of projects. And maybe it's a combination of everything. We cancel some, we thin down the scope, we defer it, and that way we get through. But those are our choices.
One question, this may not be you, but maybe Fran. Fran, do we have the authority to counsel projects where funding has not been used?
No, we can't, as Henry said before, no, we don't have the authority to go in and cancel. What I want to mention to everybody and Henry is that I have requested that when projects change, once things come into planning commission and we approve, and then something happens and things change and things are taken out or added or whatever, as an example was the 50 Washington Street, that it needs to come back to the planning commission for approval. And I'm not sure, Steve Kleppen, where we are with that, with legal and everything, but that's what I expect right now, that once a project is approved, it changes, it comes back. As far as it comes back to the planning commission. As far as us canceling, going through a list and say, okay, cancel, cancel, cancel. Never done it. I don't believe we have the authority to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
I just have a couple, Henry.
Sure, Fran.
So the money, I'm sure that when you put this thing together, you looked at what was in the, what money is still sitting in the account, right?
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
So, we're in February, some things, would have to be done, the fiscal year ends in June, right? So I'm looking for us to use that as a guide as well, as we go through line by line, saying, okay, they're asking 500,000 and they got, I don't know, 400,000 still in the account. What are they doing with that money, right? Is that a fair or not fair?
Well, I mean, we wrestle with that also. We ran the numbers when we started this capital budgeting process as of December 30th. So we looked at what are the future expenses and reimbursements beyond December 30th. We looked at the balances, but we understand there's 6 months left in this year. And it's very valid for a manager to say, I spend it in the spring. I can't spend it in the winter. So I'm going to use some of that money. So that's possible, but I would like to think that we've had these discussions with every department and we took that into account. So if someone had 450,000 and they said, look, we've got contracts and we're going to spend the vast majority of that by June 30, please understand, we take that into account. And we also look at history. Did they do that in the past or did they have balances at the beginning of the year? Okay, so we take that into consideration, but I think that's a fair question, Fran.
Okay. Some of the things that are small, which could be a rounding error, like just a rationale thing, your approach to cutting the budgets, right? To make it fair, that just from your point of view, as an example, like the library, you have small amounts, but they weren't funded. Which those amounts could be, like I said, a rounding error on the big projects. What was your rationale there, saying, okay, we're going to be fair to everybody, or what your thought process was on those kind of things?
I think we looked at it project by project, and we just felt that based on the requests, we could do without it this year. That's sometimes what we said. Tighten a budget. I remember when I first started doing budgeting here, and I had departments saying, I'm requesting 50,000. And I would say, why do you need that? And they said, well, we get this every year. And I said, but you don't spend it. And the manager didn't get it, that it wasn't this guaranteed annuity that they get 50,000 every year. So I think we primarily look at it on a budgetary basis, what's essential and what's non-essential, that we don't need it this year. So for example, the library, if you're talking about the library, they have a specific request for a laptop dispenser. It sounds delightful. I think you could load 6 laptops in and they recharge automatically and it makes it convenient. The point is, we're in COVID, budgets are tight, and we can live without it. Okay, and they have 70,000 available in their budget. Okay, that wasn't requested this year. The auditorium refresh for $75,000. I think we could do without it this year. It's just not critical enough. Newspaper digitization. I mean, the reality is somebody has to start saying, no, we can't do with it, live without it. How important is that? And you know, I took a cut. You may not agree. I'm sure each department doesn't agree, but I view budgeting a little bit like negotiation. If everybody walks away a little unhappy, then we've succeeded. Because without favoritism, everybody doesn't get what they want, and we're trying to do what's best for the city. So, you know, that's the logic behind it. I don't feel an obligation that, you know, it's like when I grew up and rooted for the New York Mets. Every team in baseball had one person that was sent to the All-Star game to make me feel good. Well, if my team doesn't have anybody that's an all-star, they shouldn't go. Same thing here. If your projects aren't important enough, I'm not going to say, here's something because we want to give every department a little something. That's not the way I approached it.
Now, I was looking at specifically with the library, like that newspaper digitization and stuff, like finishing up. It's been going on years and years. That's where I was coming from on there.
I
Now,
understand.
Fran, I was thinking the same thing when he mentioned that, Fran. I was thinking the same thing.
so that was, as we go through
I like
this,
your other ideas, Henry.
as we go through it, you know, we'll go up and down, whatever. Okay, so one more question for you, Henry,
Sure.
is have we looked at all, well, maybe two, I have two. You know, projects are bid out, you know, we put down the amount, purchasing what's available, whatever. Have you thought of, has anybody thought of, whatever, putting it, which is done in the corporate world, as I'm sure you're aware, you know, an incentive for, you know, if they come in on you know, the date, they come in on budget, on time, to give out a cash incentive of what they've, you know, of coming in that way, because everything seems to go over budget all the time, right? Or most of the time. Has any thought been given to that?
An incentive to the department or to the vendor?
No, to the vendor. Let's say whatever the project is, right? It's bid, take Broad River, just as an example, right? They came in, well, they got 2.5 million last, 2.5 more million. Has there ever been a thought process at all, or thought of? Let's say the bid is 5 million with a date of completion. Is an incentive to the vendor, excuse me, if you will. Let's say come in on time, whatever the date is, and come in at, instead of 5 million, come in at 4.7 or whatever, and you get a cash incentive for that, for coming in, whatever the percentage might be, I don't know.
I would check with our head of purchasing and procurement, and she runs the RFPs. But I think that's an interesting concept. I've had RFPs that I've run where it went the other way. There were penalties. If you don't come in on time and if you don't come in on budget, there are penalties. So I think the incentive to come in on time, one of the problems Alan Lowe and Jim Giuliano told me is that we have to pay prevailing wage statewide. That's required for all of our construction projects. And because of that, the costs go up every year, 3 to 4%. So what happens is if they don't have a good cost estimate to begin, they don't even have a design of a building. So the point is they have to request approval before they even have the design, and those are all bid out with RFPs with all the contractors. So part of the problem is that by the time they do an RFP and by the time they award the contract, some of the costs go up. So you have some competing forces there. But I will explore that with our purchasing director to see if we can incorporate that concept. It's an excellent idea.
Just a thought, and I'm okay with putting penalties on people who don't come in on time and
Right.
go so much over. So I'm on both sides, you know, because everybody, we all seem to go the same way and whatever. Okay, my last question is, and I asked this question, but I didn't get an answer. If somebody came in on corporate sponsorships for, I don't know, ball fields, a wing in a school, whatever, right? Could your department manage that kind of thing? I mean, manage meaning, let's say somebody comes in, say, I want to put my name on the Broad River field, right? I'm going to give the whole 5 million, I don't care, right? I want my name on there. I would assume your department can handle that, number one.
Financially, trust me, I'll take money in anywhere it comes and I'll find a way to handle that. I think there might be a legal issue about naming rights for public facilities. And that's something I would have to coordinate with corporate counsel and with the mayor to understand what the rules and regulations are. But if they could see their way clear to give naming rights to a building, a wing, a ball field, and we get money, I think that's a terrific idea if we could see our way clear to do that.
Well, I've been asking this question for years. I asked Mario, we don't seem to have a coordinated, that's not my department, it's not my thing, not from Mario, but maybe if you could write it down, but it is a question to coordinate and ask the question on naming rights. You know, you see, you saw the Super Bowl with Raymond James sign behind there the whole time, right? So, and it could be an approach to help alleviate some of these, big budget numbers.
Great idea. I will, so you've already raised it with Mario. I will revisit it and see where we are on that.
Okay, I asked the question of Jessica as well, so you might want to tie her in, but I don't have a, so whatever that's being thought of, whatever it is, if you could coordinate and maybe it will help the city. Okay, that's what I'm coming.
To help the city, sure.
Yeah, I have a better approach to that, Fran and Henry. Propose that somebody would like to sponsor something. Who do they talk to? Start it that way. A corporation is interested in sponsoring something. They'd like to know the process.
Okay.
Sponsor like what? Giving money for something? What do you mean sponsor?
Well, it could be.
Yeah. I spoke to a couple of celebrities last month and they had the same question. I'd like to do something. Who do I speak to? And what is the process?
Hey, listen, you brought this up before, so I'm going to tell you, bring the celebrity in, bring the checkbook, and they'll find a way to figure this out, right?
Well, no, but that's fair. And I will talk to people in the administration and try to get people to focus on that, and let's develop something, because if there's money out there, there are few enough areas where I could increase our revenues. They're few and far between. This is one that would be a new source of revenue, and it behooves me to explore it and to try to find revenue, because obviously we're under financial pressure.
That's where we're all coming from, Henry, okay?
Henry, could I ask you another question? Sorry to backtrack, but with the Board of Ed being, such a large percent of the budget, and I know that, I believe anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a state rule that says a Board of Education can never actually reduce their budget. Is that correct?
We are an alliance district, and I understand that as an alliance district, we, the city, cannot give the schools a budget, an operating budget lower than their prior year budget.
Okay. Does the same apply for capital?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the capital budget is separate and is not bound by that requirement.
All right. So as we're working with these numbers, if we wanted to do something that affected the Board of Ed this year, we have no obligation to give them the same next year.
To the best of my knowledge. I can check on that. But my understanding, there's something called an MBR, minimum budget requirement for the Board of Ed. We're very sensitive about how we give them monies to try to minimize that MBR, but that's always been on the operating side. I will confirm, Tammy, that on the capital side, there is no equivalent requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anybody else for Henry before we let him go?
I have a question.
Okay.
You're telling us that based on your recommendation, we're working with a budget of 22 million, and that is because of the type of times we are in. What happens if this continues to next year? Is this going to be the norm?
Yes.
Or is this just an exceptional year in terms of looking at the budget?
Because what's happening is it's getting worse and worse and worse. Look, this current year and next year's budget, operating budget, we're counting on an $8 million drawdown from our reserves, our rainy day fund, to bridge the gap and to minimize the tax increase to taxpayers. If we don't have a drawdown next year, we have to find another $8 million. We have raises and step increases every year. Our pension contributions keep going up. Our debt service keeps going up because we're borrowing more money. There's going to be tremendous pressure on taxpayers. So what happens is I have to be tight on the capital budget to minimize the increase in the debt service. I'm borrowing money at less than 2%, but our debt service went up by over 10%. It's a snowball. It's an avalanche coming down the hill. And it's happening on all aspects of our city. So we've done well, knock on wood. We had a good revaluation. We try to keep increases limited. But the reality is the numbers just keep getting away from us, and it's going to be hard, but eventually the taxpayers are going to have to pay for it, and the mill rate goes up and the tax payments go up. So I would not say this is the tough year, tighten the belt, next year is better. I want to say this is the first year of a whole new era where we have to be very, very tight on the capital as well as the operating budget. I just don't see any other way. We have the mall. That was a huge $500 million real estate investment. I don't see anything like that coming along. We may have pockets. We get our revenue from real estate taxes. Where's the growth going to be? We're trying to attract businesses and residents, but the reality is this is all we have. And we have to be very tight.
I have a question. You're saying our money is coming from real estate taxes. Is the city gaining any additional income from the large number of apartment buildings that are being built in the city?
What happens is when an apartment building is built, the owner of the apartment building gets an assessed value, and there are taxes on that. And I know there are some developments, but compared to a $500 million mall, they're small. So when you look at our whole grand list, yes, we're building some apartment buildings. And what the assessor does is he looks at the revenue that they get from all the apartments, and they calculate what the proper assessed value is, and then they get taxed. So yes, new construction of apartment buildings increases our grand list. But if you look at where our grand list now is, and it's tens of billions, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, the mall made a big difference, 500 million. I think when you're talking an apartment building, it's not going to be that big. So the problem is I just don't see the grand list going up as fast as our expenses are going up. And we also have to do a catch up on the capital side. So I just see tremendous pressure on the operating budget for the foreseeable years.
Okay, anything else from Henry?
Just how much is the current expenditure on the operating budget for the capital? How much are we paying in interest right now annually or on debt service?
It's a blended rate because we have bonds that are 15-year bonds and 30-year bonds.
How
But
much was it this year?
If you hang on, well, you're looking at a whole blended rate. All I could tell you is last year, we did 3 borrowings. We had 50 million in new money and we did 2 different refundings. And I believe they were all done at below 2%.
And how much are we paying dollar amount in debt service right now this year?
The debt service budget, let me just get to my operating budget. The operating budget approved for this current year, fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, was $32.4 million. The recommended next year is 36.9. That's an increase of 4.5 million or 13.8%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I can't unsee that you pulled the operating budget out of the San Francisco harbor.
That was cool, wasn't it? Yeah.
If you want the one from Boston Harbor, we'll have to do that. But,
Optical illusion.
right.
Very cool.
All right, Henry, on that note then, cool optics. So we thank you for coming, answering all of our questions, the explanations, and hey, we'll do the best that we can, and then we'll, see how it goes. Thank you for
Well,
your time.
All we
Okay.
could do, I thank you for accommodating me on a Tuesday night. I appreciate your good efforts. I know you're all volunteers. City appreciates it. And I will research my to-do items and get back to you, Fran. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Henry.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we're gonna take, first of all, when I say, are you there? Don't forget, I use my phone and I can only see one person at a time who's speaking, so I don't see everybody there. So apologize for for asking that question all the time. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, get something strong like coffee or whatever, or I'm okay, get food, whatever you need to do. And we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes and we'll start the process, okay?
Fran,
Thank you.
Fran,
Yeah.
may I
Yes.
just apologize for coming in late and also busting in with a question before being invited? My apologies.
No, it's okay, but I called on you first, okay? I couldn't see that you weren't there. So you were the first stop. Anyway, that's okay. Okay, thank you. See you in 5 minutes or so. Tools, meaning I'm using Henry's letter that he sent out, which has the spreadsheet. And to the left of the spreadsheet, it's got the available. So that's the available amount, I'm assuming, and I forgot to ask him this question. That's what I'm thinking it is. What's in the accounts right now? Steve Kleppen, Brian Baker, can you verify that?
Yeah, that's how much they currently have in that line item.
Okay, when I asked my question, I asked Brian and I called Steve and because I said, be prepared to answer the question on how much is in the available budget. And Brian came back, it's in the spreadsheet. So as we go through this, we heard Henry, belt and nut tightening for everybody as we go through line by line. And, we heard the presentations, different thoughts on different things and, look at need versus want versus it's nice to have. And some of these partial things, I'm thinking, I'll give you an example. I know that I happen to know about the roof fund on the fire department. Just as an example, say, they asked for 145, I think, and Henry appropriated 100. How do you do it? Let's say if a bid comes in at 145, how do you do it for 100? So as we're looking at things and partial allotments, I said, we'll take it line by line. We'll have the discussion, but we're going to end at 9. So if we don't get this done, we're just going to come back tomorrow night with a fresh brain and do the same thing, 5:30 tomorrow, and take it through to the end.
Fran, could I just ask one procedural question?
Yeah.
I just was wondering, I assume that Brian is going to keep track on that master list that he sent out. And can we check where we are maybe after each department or something? I think it's going to be, how are we going to do that to keep track?
I could just share the screen as I punch in the numbers so you all see it.
I'm just thinking though, that people that are on the phone, they're probably not going to be able to see it.
Yeah, even before you ask, Mary, I'm going to call on Brian and say, where are we? And that's what I'm looking for, a number as to where we are. If we do it after each department, that's good to give us an idea of what we're working with. Okay.
Okay, and maybe Brian could share the screen each time he does that so we can get a picture of each department, even though some people might not be able to see his screen.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Brian, you there?
Yeah, I could just share it the whole time if you want. And then if you want me to stop, just let me know and I'll stop sharing.
I don't know what works best as we go through line by line. Is it sharing the spreadsheet? I mean, we all have it in our hands, and you want to put it up. You want to put it up, and we'll talk about it. And you plop the number in. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think that'll work out good if I just keep it up.
Fran, could I suggest that maybe, I have a feeling, although I came in slightly late, that most people here think that we should spend a little bit more, invest a little bit more in capital. And my initial thought before the meeting was we should go another 10 million up as a total. He basically, he's very conservative, which is good, the chief financial officer. He also says he regards everything as a negotiation. So I suggest we go a minimum of 5 million up on the capital, if not 10 million. But what do you and the rest of the team think?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not open to 10 million, but this is a commission. I like to go line by line and plop our numbers in without any preconceived expectations of where we're going to be, right? So
Okay with me.
We'll have the discussion, we'll plop the numbers in and see where we are, and then we regroup when we have the number, okay?
Okay.
I'd like to just say that Tamara's number would look good to me. You said 30 million, and it seemed like a good compromise to me.
Okay.
8 million more.
Was I speaking in Italian when I said need versus want and belt tightening? Was I any of those things?
No, I didn't understand.
Okay. I can say it in a couple of different languages. Okay, well, I'll send you a thought process right now. Let's look at the numbers. We'll have our discussion and see where we end up, okay?
Understood.
Okay.
Hey, Fran, before we get started, just an FYI, we can't meet tomorrow because there's no agenda posted. We can't just have a meeting. Thursday would be the earliest.
I did mention this to you, didn't I, a while, at some
We
point?
didn't. We sent the agenda. There was no comment to add another agenda, so we can't add an agenda now. I got a zoning commission meeting tomorrow night too.
All right, so what do you need to do to post an agenda? I mean, when you and I talked, I assumed that, I remember I said we're making, what do you call it? Whatever the word I used at the time, that if we don't finish today, we were going to go on to the next day. And your answer was, I believe, you can do it the next day. So whatever. So what do you need, if we don't get done, to do it on Thursday? What do you need to post?
Thursday would be fine. Thursday's not an issue. Wednesday's an issue.
Okay, well, then it's Thursday then, if we don't finish tonight, okay? Okay, so we got the first thing up, we have the firing range. So Brian, the way this happened in the past, I don't want to be doing all the talking here, just so you know. Michael Rinn used to read each line item and then, we discuss it and plop the numbers in. So feel free to jump in. I'm not going to be talking all the time, okay? Just from that
All right.
perspective.
So then for the first department, it's police department's up first. And like you said, firing range is the first item.
Do we agree with Henry's recommendation there?
Yes.
I'm okay.
Yes.
Unless I hear a nay, we're gonna just, on the ones that we agree on, we'll just go forward, okay?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, next, cars and vans.
Now,
Sorry,
it
I
shows-
misunderstood something. I thought everybody said we were comfortable with the department recommendation or the finance department's recommendation.
No, finance department.
So why?
Department.
Okay,
Henry has it fully funded.
right.
I'm okay with it. It seems like the rest of the commission is okay with it, right? Okay. Now, on this one, the next one here is, they requested 709. He gave them 549, and it shows that they have 610, which I'm not sure, what they're going to use it for or whatever. Are we looking to change that number at all to fully fund the?
No, it's for cars and, automobiles, so you don't need a whole amount. You get one or two less vehicles.
We okay
Let's
with
go with,
that?
let's go with finance recommendation.
I concur.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right,
Marie?
next two are not considered to be funded for, well, the scanner, the department requested and Harry zeroed out.
Go with 0.
0 it is.
No.
All right, then, so we're moving on to combined dispatch. They are not asking for anything, so we could skip through that one if you want.
And Brian, just to be clear for the public, you said Harry, but you meant Henry.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. It's a big difference.
Just say finance director, so we don't mess it up.
All right, so we'll move on to the fire department. So the first item is vehicles.
Which the finance director is fully funding. From what just as the talk a minute on the, look at that list, look at the fire department. And are there things that we need to readjust before we go into any detail that we feel that the finance director has zeroed out that we might want to be put in or trim something else?
I'd go with his recommendation in total.
Yeah, I'm still looking, hold on. Remember that item, number 7, where they talked about the trailer for the hazmat? Remember that was and help me out here if I remember correctly. It was when other cities call upon us, we have to provide the tractor trailer. Anybody remember that conversation that we had?
Yeah, I do. It was sort of like a mutual aid type thing, but it was not an emergency type thing.
Okay.
It sounded like a great idea, of course, but I'm fine with finance recommendations in this department.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm looking at the apparatus, we always want them to have, that's the big numbers, but I just want to see that thing that they had, where was it? Was it the air packs or that emergency? Which one was it? Let's see here, Betty Power.
Wasn't it the AFFF foam and the high, was that it? The ones they had to upgrade to the new technology?
was the foam, the
Which you-
bag, yeah. Which are
Fine.
funded.
Finance funded all the essentials.
What's that SCBA air packs?
That's the
Base-
breathing apparatus.
Oh, they didn't ask for anything. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm thinking of the other thing. Okay. All right, so we good with the fire department, the way it is?
Yeah. As recommended.
Yes.
They're not getting the boat, but that's unfortunate, but I think the police department boat is upgraded and we can live with that for a while.
Oh, this is the one, the question on the roofing. You know, the roof for Meadow Street, the new roof, which they requested 145 and finance recommended 100. That's what I just heard that the thing was you can't do it for 100, it's 145. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that one? Those you did no construction.
Well,
They
I
had-
can't answer that one. I can't answer it.
I would, $100,000 for a roof seems like a significant amount of money on one structure. Maybe they just have to put out some bids and say, this is what we have.
Well, it was the first
Agreed.
replacement and I think the building is 50 years old, something like that. And as I recall, it was the first replacement. So that's why it's so expensive, because they have to, they have to remove that whole entire roof and put the new one on. But the thing is, they said they had gotten an estimate, but they didn't have, I think they probably just got one estimate and they could send it out to bid. And if they have to ask for a request, a special request later, they can do that.
They should just say what their budget is. We have $100,000. Who can do it?
Exactly.
Well,
Let's stick with finance.
If you were a roofing company, wouldn't you want a $100,000 job? I think so.
Well, the bid process is stricter than, they send it out and they'll get multiple bids.
Yeah,
And
no, I completely understand. that
Okay, let's not get waylaid. Are we all okay with the fire department the way it is then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm good with it.
okay.
All right, moving on, we're into Public Works and Engineering, and the first item is bridge repairs.
Good. Before we go through each line item, because there are a lot of them, can I just say, I think it's very interesting that this department was almost fully funded. And I think I've made this suggestion before, but there are some really big ticket items in here that are annual items. And perhaps we want to think of cutting those back 1 year to fund some other things that are more one-time projects. And just as a thought as we go along.
Well, which
you
one
give-
time project?
Well, for
you-
example,
give some examples.
repaving is always $6 million. And I do think the city in the last 5+ years has been doing a really great job repaving a lot of roads. And I know that the taxpayers really like nicely paved roads, and so do I. And I think they add value to the town. But in a year where we seem to be very constrained, what if you just postpone 1 year or only do half as many streets? It's not the end of the world, and we might be able to use some of those millions for other projects that are more one-time capital, true capital projects rather than ongoing capital projects.
And Tammy, I also noticed that the year before it was only 5 million instead of 6 million.
Yeah, why they increased it, I don't know.
Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that was their request. That was what council approved.
Right. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it was
the-
6 million was the request.
The request was 6 million last year. I'm okay with, if we cut that to 5. I'm not okay to eliminate or whatever, because unless you're living on some of these roads, and I get annoyed with all the Eversource and all the other things that happen after a road is paved, and I don't fully understand the process for the city being reimbursed. Even though I've asked that question, it's not clear to me after seeing what's happened here on Strawberry Hill. So I'm proposing 5 million and we have $1 million to play with something else. Thoughts?
What about waterproof, watercourse maintenance, which I think water is pretty key to as we move forward? Putting about $500,000 into that to make it 1 million on the watercourse maintenance.
What number is that?
We're not there yet,
That's
though.
8,
Thank you.
watercourse maintenance.
Right.
So hold on, let's go one more. Are we agreeing on 5 million for the paving?
I'd agree.
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
so 5
Did you-
million. So Brian, 5 million on the paving.
Yeah, did you look at the ones before that? Bridge repairs, structural inspections and repairs on West Cedar Bridge?
I don't want to skimp on bridges. Sorry, folks.
No,
Yeah.
Same here.
Okay with what's
okay
there.
with
right?
those.
Okay,
All the rest, to me, all the rest are, I'm fine with.
Except for the water course maintenance, I wanted to hear what Brian had to say.
Only basically in the sense that we know that water is a major issue for Norwalk, and we have to keep on investing in that area to get better control of it and alleviate some of the challenges. So that's why, as if we had some spare money, and I would have basically put it into that as far as the public works is concerned.
But what water course maintenance, what you're talking about versus the stormwater management, or which one are you?
Well,
I
I don't quite understand that. Well, we could put 500,000 into stormwater management and leave 500,000 in watercourse maintenance. I have a feeling they must be a little related.
They are related, and I think that's a fair recommendation on your part.
I'm in agreement.
But guys, I was just looking back at my notes under watercourse maintenance C1 in our big book. It says design and construction, and it's basically on Ponus Avenue. So maybe they felt that they were just with the 500, that's the design, and then they'll build it later.
Yes.
What's the cost for the design, Tammy, in there? Is that 500,000?
Hold on. There's a lot of pages in this one, Fran. 1 second. I was just looking at the cover sheet and I wrote some notes on it. It is. Okay, so under watercourse maintenance on the page with the description, flood mitigation and maintenance of watercourse drainage infrastructure, mitigate flooding, design and construction of storm sewer improvements. They don't have broken out what is design, Fran. But
Okay.
I'm just kind of intuiting that maybe that's what the chief financial officer, maybe he spoke to somebody in Public Works and said, you know, do you need all of this right now? And maybe they said, well, 500 would really get us through the design phase. I mean, it's a $13.5 million project over the course of 4 years.
Yeah, but they still have, they have 33.7 million in their account. Is it? Yeah, 3.7 million.
Mhm.
So
Well,
maybe
I
the
don't know.
5, I don't know, what's your thoughts on the, let's see, the stormwater management, they don't have any money in the account. They requested 837 versus the water course here, they requested 3.5 million. They still have 3.7 million in their account. What's your thoughts? Do we leave it at 500 or we up the other one some, or?
Well, there's nothing in stormwater management.
Yeah, I know, they requested 837 and there's nothing there. So,
I think that should be 500 because that's essential for the future. And that is connected with watercourse maintenance, but watercourse maintenance is to prevent flooding in neighborhoods by dredging ponds and streams that have become silted up. So I'm happy to look at the watercourse maintenance the way that Brian Baxtendale had suggested, and making that 1 million, and then adding 500,000 to the stormwater management. Is that right? Yeah, 500. No, I'm sorry, 500 and 500.
That's it, 500 and 500.
That's right. Yeah, so 500 is what finance recommended. Keeping watercourse maintenance at 500.
And stormwater at 500,000.
I just want to point out, it's a planning. It's not actually, I'm looking at the letter in there. It's about a planning, but so I
But
don't
if they
know.
don't, if they don't plan for it, they can't spend it. By that I mean they can't get the capital rec in place, and we need to keep moving forward on the stormwater and the drainage, I think.
So what's the consensus here?
Fran, I have a question. For the funds that are available, have they already been designated, or are they open funds?
What do you mean available? What do you mean they're available?
Under column C.
Tamara, I think he spoke to that, saying that it was hard to predict. It was how much they had in the account now, but that it wasn't clear about if there were plans to spend it in spring, so that it was really a guess on our part about the intention of those funds.
So then we should not be taking that into consideration when we're looking at our budgeting?
He said it was up to our judgment, that he couldn't say one way or the other.
Okay.
And DPW did say that a lot of work happens in the spring before the end of the fiscal year, at the end of June.
Right.
So I suspect that, I mean, I'm tending to ignore those numbers. But I still think the 500, the finance, well, you cut paving by 1 million, so you had 1 million to play with. Is that how you're looking at that, everybody else?
That's how I'm looking at it.
So
Right now.
make that 1 million in watercourse maintenance, because that would add 500 in, and then use the other 500 for the stormwater management plan, even though it's a specific number at 837, and see if they, they'll just have to meet it somehow.
Yeah, but don't forget, we still got a lot of line items to go, so.
Sorry, my computer battery died. I lost you guys for a few minutes. I am not looking at it as moving the 1 million from paving and putting it somewhere else within Public Works, because Public Works basically got everything they wanted, and there are a lot of other departments that didn't get anything. So I'm leaning toward moving that 1 million out of Public Works and putting it in some other department, because I think that Dashowitz isn't going to give us any more than 22, whether we like it or not. But anyway.
It's Dakowitz.
Excuse me.
That's so we all get it.
Sorry, Dashowitz. Excuse
I
me.
think the DPW, Public Works, I believe, got the, they have the biggest, I think, well, they got the most of the capital budget recommendation, I believe. They got the highest amount.
That's what
I
I
like
said
the-
from the beginning.
Why don't we, can we put a mark on that and just continue, and then we can come back to it, as we find, if we have more money, less money, if we find a line item that we really want to fund that wasn't funded, or however.
I
And
like
keep
that plan. I think that's a good plan. Could we hold those two, especially, I'm less worried, even though I'm really glad that Brian brought up the water course maintenance, I'm more worried actually about the stormwater management plan than I am about the water course maintenance. So revisiting those two would be just fine with me.
Okay, so we're gonna put a line on that one to revisit, okay? All right, so we okay with the rest? We're gonna move on to the next page. I'm just gonna asterisk here, we gotta come back, hold on. Okay, So now, Brian, you with us? We're on the next page here.
Brian, could
just-
you maybe highlight those in red or something so we'll know to come back those? Or just change the color of it, maybe do the background color different so we'll know? Not the
Yeah.
lettering, but maybe the background. Yeah, great, thank you.
All right, so we are moving on to operations and the truck scale replacement.
No, what's that other stuff at the top of the page? Infrastructure, that's still part of engineering. Okay, never mind. Okay, truck scale. This one has been on, forever. If you guys remember, we've talked about the scale. I'm
And
okay.
What's the consensus then?
It's essential.
I think we need it. It's needed.
Sure.
There's
I
Okay.
agree with
there's
I go
legal,
with the finance
there's
department
lia-
recommendation.
and there's liability involved if the scale is not weighing the trucks.
Okay. So,
Okay,
so Brian says to go with finance recommendations. I can look at that.
we
On the
okay?
whole of operations.
Okay, for operations, we're okay with the finance director recommendation. Okay, moving on, the Recs and Parks. Let's see here.
So the first item is school and park playgrounds.
Well, give us a second to read the thing here in case somebody jumps off.
That's fine. It gives me a chance to fix some of the columns.
Yeah, so I'm okay, right now, I'm just going through, I'm okay with 0 at Broad River. They got 2.5 million last year. I think they gotta figure out, I don't know, other bidding or whatever, or name rights, or have a company come in and call it their name. And if they like to, help build the park.
So can I just ask a question? This issue of turf keeps on coming up. Is that something that we want to push out? I mean, I know that there is a lot of desire about having good athletic facilities, but I also know that from some camps, there's concern about its safety. Is that something that makes sense to postpone?
Which line item are you talking about, Mary?
For instance, the turf softball, although I think, was that for the girls turf softball? I don't know.
Yeah,
Line
that's
three.
the turf one. The turf
Yep.
one is the one at Ryan McMahon for the girls softball. And it's gonna take $620K to finish up what was started at 1 million last year. We've heard all the last year and this year, right? And the turf. I'm okay with that 620. What else were you talking about, Mary?
That was the one that just caught my eye because this issue of the turf fields.
Can't hear you. I can't hear you.
The issue of the turf fields keep on coming up. So I just wondered whether we wanted to take more time on that. It's just a question.
Are you talking? Can't hear you very well. You kind of cut it in and out. And
Sorry, I don't think I was speaking into my mic. Can you hear me better now?
yeah.
Okay.
So is there I know you talked about the turf softball, but is there another, are you asking based on what's here as far as turf? Or is yours a general question of stopping turf?
I'm asking, given how tight the budget is that something that we put off until there's been a lot of discussion about whether it's wise to use turf. So it's just a question whether we should postpone it, not have it this year's.
Yeah, but are you specifically targeting the turf softball? Is that the one?
That's the one I'm seeing. I'm looking to see if there are any other ones that use turf. Sorry, I'm not going fast enough, but that was the first one that popped out.
Mary, I would like to suggest that in this turf softball situation, they have a bad drainage problem there. They're not, the softball isn't as much in your face with turf as say football, where the athletes are down on the ground. And this project has been requested for as long as I've been on the planning commission. I think in my estimation, it's time to get it done. And I don't think in this particular location that soil is the answer to creating a good field there.
Okay. I just wanted to raise the issue.
Mary, I appreciate your concern. In this case, it's a matter of equity as well.
That's
And
why I thought it was for the girls. I agree. I mean,
Yeah,
if it's,
yeah. No,
but I
but
still,
I think I agree with Tammy and you. In this case, however, I think there's no question the case that was made about equity and the condition of the current field being unusable most of the time.
okay.
But I think your point is well taken for future projects for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, if you look down, we had a public hearing where they talked about Casa Grande Field and Testa Field, and this is Norwalk High and Brian McMahon. Now, I think Testa Field and Norwalk High was the track, right? And at Brian McMahon, I mean, they were out for $500,000, which the project finance director has zeroed out. I'm okay with those moving out, another year or so. As you look at what's your thoughts? Are we good with those zeros up to there, or have a couple of
Yeah,
questions?
I'm good with just based on COVID and based on activity. But I think it's gonna have to be looked at stronger the following year. 1 year of this passing up again might be more of a problem. But I think of the use, the track is used for the public as well. That's why I do think of that track. It is being used after school is done. So it's a multi-use piece.
I'd go with one of these and put one of the other 500,000 to next year. So at least they can stage them.
Yep.
Are they gonna
And with that, Brian, I would say do the Casa, do the one for Brian McMahon and leave the one at Norwalk High alone because the city hall has a track nearby. That's just what I would just guess, but.
And plus, wasn't there some issue with the construction about whether it would be affected? So I agree that Norwalk High should be held off.
Are they going to build a new track for Norwalk High? Because Norwalk High is the one that's used by the track and field teams, whereas the one by the town hall is used by the community. So if they're building a new one, would we need to fund this? Is that going to be part of the program of the new high school?
Oh, I think, Tamara, I think you misunderstood. One was at Brian McMahon and one was at Norwalk High. Steve confused you because he brought up the City Hall one, but that's not one of these projects.
Okay.
To be fair, right, Steve?
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking instead of doing two tracks, one is used by, Brian McMahon is used by the public. And if the public uses the Norwalk High track, they could just use their City Hall. That's why I was just thinking as far as multi-use.
Okay, Steve, where did you go to high school?
Me?
Yeah.
I went to high school in Stanford.
Okay, so I went to Norwalk High, but I don't want to choose between Brian McMahon and Norwalk High, and I'm okay with leaving this alone, that they probably can go another year, but what's the consensus of the group here?
I'd like to say that the photographs that were delivered to us by Parks and Recs did not warrant a whole new field and a field that won't be able to have use for over a year for $500,000. The damages were small looking to me. And I feel that this is not where I would spend the resources.
Are we okay on those numbers the way they are?
Yes.
Okay, Ben Franklin, that's the air conditioning thing. And those of you who have
Wait,
been there.
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I have a question about line 7, Veterans Memorial Park. 425,000 was requested, but they put in 750,000, and I'm not sure why.
Agreed.
election.
Why?
Oh, that one, oh, they went higher. What were they doing over there? Veterans,
I mean, I'm wondering because the next year is listed as 750,000, but I didn't understand if he's so worried about timing of things, I didn't understand why the number is the next year's number as opposed to the number that was requested that was 425.
I think it might have to do with the tennis courts. Hold on.
Ed Vets
No.
Park.
No, there are no tennis courts at Vets Park.
Oh, you're right, sorry.
It was, I believe, I thought it was the marina, the docks that are falling apart. But I might be mistaken.
But they only asked
That
for,
was, yes. The
They only asked-
marina dock was 750,000. The new roof center building was 425,000.
Yeah, but what's the purpose of, if the department
you're
requested
saying they're
425?
doing the dock instead of the new roof, is that what you're saying, Brian?
No, I'm suggesting here, yes, they're doing the dock as opposed to the new roof.
Oh,
Is there-
it could also be a mistake here, right?
But the dock is an income, a revenue generating thing. I want to.
And the dock, yes, and the dock came, sorry, Tammy, but the dock came up suddenly because they inspected it and it was actually, they said it was ready to collapse. And it was pretty urgent. So I'm fine with the finance.
But can I ask a question of Steve Kleppen? Is there any way, I mean, if it's the 750 for the dock, I understand, but is there any way that we can clarify that? Because there's no note about what we're approving for.
Steve, one of you guys either text Henry, because we're doing this real time, right? Text him or call him on the phone. And is this a mistake that he can talk to, it's only what, 20 of 8?
I mean,
Okay,
it does say,
I'll-
I did take notes that it said it was getting to be a safety issue, and this was also something that generated income.
Yeah,
So I
Mary,
don't know-
it's okay. I want Steve to get a hold of Henry and come back to us. Leave
Mary,
that,
I
make
mean,
that,
Fran-
a-
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you look at the front, the cover sheet, the summary page for the parks and maintenance, line 7, Veterans Park, the number is 425. But then when you go and look at the detail over on page 78, it's 750.
So
No, it's not.
That's for the
wrong
dock.
year. Wrong
Guys,
year, Tammy. Look
guys,
down at the
guys.
years at the bottom. And Fran wants to move on, but if you look at the
Okay.
bottom, it's not.
Okay. Gotcha.
don't-
Yep, you're right.
get a hold of Henry, please, and find out. Otherwise, we're not putting anything in, because if the numbers are not, I'm not, we can't guess what they meant this, they meant that. Either the number is correct or incorrect, okay?
You're right, Fran. We'll move on.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll email him right now.
And for the record,
Does it-
Fran,
does
this was on your list of questions to ask in a prior meeting. I remember it. And we never got around to it because we started talking about something else.
Well,
And
we
it was
got-
left
we got-
unanswered. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, we were way late or whatever. So Steve Kleppen, unless he answers, what's the fastest way? Call him on the phone. I don't know if he's gonna answer emails or whatever, okay?
Okay,
Next.
I'm working on it.
I know.
Well, Nick Roberts would actually have the, I
Yeah,
think, have the more detail.
I'm emailing all 3 of them now.
It's a finance recommendation, right? So moving on. What's the
Did you guys
next
want
one?
to look at I think we skipped around because we started with turf softball. Did we want to look at school and park playgrounds and as item 1?
No, I think we're okay with those numbers the way they are, correct?
All right.
I'd go with the whole of the rest of the recreations and park of the finance recommendation. Agree with it.
Yes.
Okay. I'm okay with it, unless, and then when Steve comes back to us, we'll revisit that Vets Park.
Can I only ask one clarifying question? I'm just confused why on line number 17, athletic fields, there was no request and he put in 50,000. Line 17, athletic
well-
fields.
That's another question, right?
Okay, I can ask that too.
Okay, otherwise that goes to 0 since we don't see any requests. Right?
Correct.
Right.
Put that in yellow. had a question on something, and now we've been all over the place. I can't remember. Oh, I have a question on, I circled it here. The open space fund, right? Line item number 16. So and you guys all saw the answer when I asked about, the open space fund, how much was there and all kinds of stuff. It came back that there was $280,000 in there. Now here available, it's showing 100,000, but to this day, I'm gonna say I haven't seen any planning commission. We haven't seen any request come in or anything that's been done with that 280 number. So this is one of those things that they keep asking for, money every single year. Not that I'm against open space or the, gathering or whatever it is, but if there's 280,000 sitting in the account there and you're gonna add 50 more, right? What,
Fran,
I'm
one of
okay.
the things with this is that when your property acquisition is extremely expensive, so the idea is that we don't necessarily have a specific property in mind any given budget year. So you try to accumulate funds every year. And that way, if there is a worthy property that comes available, then you use those funds as part of the purchase for it. More than likely, you wouldn't be able to just simply, put this $50,000 a year towards funding an entire property. You probably have to look at, significant other outside sources from whether Trust for Public Land, Nature Conservancy, or some other group, or maybe the city would have to, do a special appropriation or something like that. But this is way like the ongoing funding of that effort.
I agree, Steve, but this year, I don't think that's an essential contribution because I'm kind of answering Fran's question here. I know the money, the 280, if I'm remembering correctly, was supposed to go towards the White Barn in the kind of scenario that you're talking about, Steve, where it was going to be leveraged with various other sources. That has all fallen through because the property was sold to a developer. Some people see that as, very unfortunate happening. I tend to agree, but I'm not going to comment any further on that. But in any case, the White Barn purchase is out of the question. So the 280 that's in there, I don't know where that 100 came in under column C, but the 280 is fine for now. I think we ought to use that 50 somewhere else.
what's everybody else's thought on this one?
Given how conservative the finance director is, I would like to ask if there's any rationale. If not, I'd say take it out, but I'd be curious why he kept it in.
Yeah, well, I'm not asking for texting on that one, Mary.
Well, I think in a tight budget year, it might be good to cut it back, but I think you will want to leave it there as a placeholder because if something does come up and you're trying to get matching funds, say from, the Land Conservancy or something, they want to see that the city has been funding open space initiatives, and then, they give you a better look to get matching funds.
And 50,000 isn't going to make or break this budget.
No,
No,
so maybe just
I'm-
cut it in half, like put 25 or 20 or 10 even, just to keep the placeholder there.
Tammy, that's a great, 25,000 would be great, Tammy, I think, in showing the intent, but at least cut it back a bit because they have 280 in there. And as far as I can recall, there's nothing pending right now in terms of a potential purchase, but
you never know. There could be some great property that the land trust could have access to, and if it's $500,000 and the city can spend some, help the land trust raise those funds for open space, because as we know, there's less and less of it every day in Norwalk. I think it's a worthwhile and very relatively small investment.
Well, I think Henry may have been thinking of Nassau County where he came from. I'm just joking. Anyway,
I would go with the finance director's recommendation simply because we know he's very conservative, and he must have, I think they think all these lines through in a dialogue with the operating heads, more detail than we normally have probably. So I'd go with his recommendation.
I'm okay with leaving it alone at the finance director's recommendation. The rest of you guys?
Fine.
I'm
That's
okay
fine.
with it.
Okay. And who's ever listening from the media, please, this discussion is not because the planning commission was against open space. It's a discussion on funds. Okay.
All right. Moving on, we're going down into buildings. And we are at City Hall repairs and improvements.
Yeah, just give us a minute to read through this.
Yep.
Brian, can you put it so we can see the whole building thing on our screen?
Yeah, I'm just working because the
Great.
line item
Thank you.
column is
I know.
all messed up.
I saw
see.
you had
Yes,
all those
thank you.
you had all those error messages because I was impressed with your fancy formulas of getting this data compressed,
Yeah,
Well,
but it didn't work on
that
some
was
of
Yeah.
the
them.
issue. That was the issue I was having, Brian, when I tried to print it.
I see now, Fran.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
started to send you an email to ask a question and I figured it was too complicated, but never mind. I'm
Yeah, it's
glad-
because it's linked, it's trying to link to a different Excel spreadsheet, and I guess the other spreadsheet that it's linking to is all changed, so.
Fran, are we going in order of each of the items? Is that what you prefer? Because I have a question when we get to item number 5.
I said, give us a minute to read the thing. So read this real quick, the buildings. And then we can have, I know we have notes and stuff, and we can go through as we go through here. Okay, does anybody, and Brian, next time you'll listen to me, right? I was trying to explain to you.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. Give you a heads up. Okay, so do we have any issues with item 1 through 7?
I'm concerned about number 5.
Okay, go ahead.
Nathaniel Ely, I don't know if it is going to be get funding from the COVID fund that Mike brought up, because it's not part of the school system, it's part of the city, and it's where there's preschool. I'm concerned about that this is air conditioning and other basic facilities for young children. I worry about that the Nathaniel Ely building has not been as well maintained as school buildings. And I'm worried about cutting out the whole budget for that.
What's the whole budget? You have that thing in front of you, Mary, as to what they're asking for?
Yes. hold on.
Yeah, 275.
I know, but what's 275 doing?
It's the building rooftop air conditioners will reach the end of their life expectancy in 2022. The heating system is original to the building. The existing air conditioning will be replaced by energy efficient. I mean, honestly, we're talking about little kids. This is preschool. And I'm not comfortable with, we're spending all this money on the school infrastructure, and I think we're undercutting our preschool facilities. I know it's a lot of money, but I think there has to be something there for upgrading those buildings. And they're year round. They're not, I don't believe
Well,
that they're 9 months.
Yeah, I can understand them, but the notes that I have next to yours, Tim, it says that this is 2-year phases. So HVAC for 275 for 2022 and 275 for 2023. So the building HVAC distribution and equipment will be reaching their life cycle in 2022. So I don't know if that was the reason why they pushed it back 1 more year. You see what I'm looking
This
at,
was-
Tammy?
I do. I just worry about that.
Was that Tim? Was that Mary? Was that Mary? I'm sorry.
It was Mary. I'm sorry. I didn't put my picture because we're looking at thing. Yeah, I did see that it was 2022, Steve, but I was just concerned about traditionally that building they've not invested in keeping it up like they do school buildings. I was just concerned about that.
Knowing the building, this is the one question I had on this particular budget, and that was the 275 that we should probably go with.
I mean, I know
Or
it's a
even
lot of
put in
money, but this is
200,000.
the largest preschool center in the whole city. We're talking about 3
Yep.
to 5-year-old.
So Mary, are you proposing that we fund at 275?
I would definitely like for us to, if we're going to go through and hold this, but I definitely think we have to put some money in this. I don't like that we're not investing in little kids.
I agree with Mary.
Okay, so is the rest of the group agree that we fully fund this one at 275?
Agreed.
Okay, so put in 275 because it's a building that's, and I'm talking out loud because, I'm gonna have to put the letter together of recommendation, right? This building is not part of the school system, right?
Correct. It's a city building, not a school building.
Okay. So Brian, we're going with the fully funding at 275
Uh,
on item number 5, the Nathaniel Ely various repairs.
All right, all set.
Can we
Okay.
go-
Yep.
Can we revisit or visit the police locker room?
Yes,
460,000,
What number, what line item are
uh,
you on?
that's line number 3.
For the police facilities?
Yes, I mean, they're getting their firing range over on the police department budget page. I'm just asking, I don't know if that's something that, I think maybe they asked for it last year.
So what are you saying? This is item number 3.
Number
police-
3, they
police-
requested 480, they put in for 460.
Yeah,
And I'm just wondering if everybody thinks that's, something that is essential.
Yeah, the reason why it went from 480 to 460 was it was 460 for the roof, but it was 20 grand for design for the locker room.
Right, okay.
I'm okay. I'm okay in leaving it alone.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve, for explaining that, because I didn't realize that either.
No problem.
The
This
locker
is what I do late at night.
Very good, very good.
And the
All right.
building is 20 years old, so the locker room didn't seem a priority, but that's just the design for the renovation.
Okay, next page, we're on, let's see. Main library. This is an all zeroed out, what's here? Take a minute, take a look.
And were you comfortable with items 6 and 7, the various buildings, energy conservation, and then the branch library improvements?
I think we're on branch library number 7.
Okay.
No, I had flipped the page, so,
yeah. Main library, 8.
Oh. What number?
unless people have problem, I'm flipping the page to item number 8. And it says main library.
There's nothing in 8.
Yeah, the rest are zeroed out.
It is no request, okay. All right, okay, next is the water pollution control, right? That
Yep.
one we always leave alone. It's, I'm okay with the way it is.
So am I.
Oh my.
Moving on.
All right, so now-
I apologize. Fran, which line item did you just do?
We're on to, we left the water pollution control authority alone. And Mary, what's going on? What's going on with your microphone anyway? Because you're always cutting in and out.
So sorry about this. I'm getting a new computer later this week. It'll be better.
Okay, no, I'm just asking about the microphone.
I'm so sorry. I'm only asking because I also want to make sure that we look carefully at Ben Franklin, which I believe is item number 9, and it got, did I
Zero.
do that correctly? Oh, there's no
There's no-
request. My apologies. I was looking at the wrong year. My apologies.
It is no request for that
Yeah,
whole.
no,
bunch
I
over
looked at
there.
the wrong year. My apologies.
Okay, so we're on to,
And Mary, that we did approve, I believe, up above, the air conditioning for the Ben Franklin gym.
Ben Franklin, right?
So that was that was up in DPW, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And that's been an ongoing saga over there, so.
Okay,
Okay, so now we're on to economic and community development. So
So the-
this one here, small business Main Street program. They requested 100 and department requests 150. This is, this was what? Who remembers? Who's got the book open right now?
I do. It's launching storefront improvements, trash cans, banners on Washington Street, and they give some grants, 35K grants. Placemaking, business support enhancements.
Okay, I'm okay with that one. You guys?
Yes.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think I don't know what's wrong with using the Chamber of Commerce, but
Well, we haven't heard too much from, anyway. Moving, transportation, mobility and parking. So, let's see. Take a minute, take a look and see the items that we have to talk about.
Fran, let us know when you're ready for questions or comments.
No, I'm ready. Go ahead.
I have a question about, we're spending so much on traffic lights, but not on the transportation master plan. Just a question. It's 90,000 for the plan, and we're still spending $500,000 on traffic lights. Just a question.
Yeah, but 500,000 is one traffic light.
It's two.
It's
no,
two.
450. That's
It
what
was-
he told us, 450,000 per traffic installation, basically. I mean, there've got to be some variations depending on what size intersection, but
No, that seems to be, every time we asked about this, it used to be 250 and now it's grown to 450, right?
Because that includes the transformer box too, if you do both of them together.
All right, so when you're looking, Mary, when you're looking at that 500,000, that's one traffic light, one in, whatever, it's one.
So in this particular budget, I'd just increase it by 90,000 for the master plan. They might as well get on with that and let's have a plan. That's
where I was
90,000 I would add.
Thank you, Brian. That's where I was going, because I worry about, we keep on adding traffic lights, but we're not making planning to make this rational.
Well, that one, the
Agreed.
design is 40,000 for the design for that traffic light, if you're talking about it. Think about it. They're charging 10% of the design for a $410,000 traffic light at Scribner and I-95.
That whole
Oh.
project, I'll be honest, that whole project doesn't smell right to me. That has.
I'm with you, Mike.
I
That
agree.
has, that can be solved, I believe, with a three-way stop,
Mhm.
with continuous flow, right turn, and people coming south on Scribner will have to wait their turn, but that would prevent backup onto Route 1. It would save $500,000. I want to put 50,000 back in the Norwalk River Valley Trail, which is an investment in one of the most important trail projects in the region that the finance took out. And that's up above item 10. And just zero out the item we were just talking about. I'm losing.
Mike,
my-
I'm with you. Take out the traffic light there. I think it's a terrible idea, and let's put some money in some planning and the trail, and we still have money left over to reapportion other places.
Now, we had this discussion though with the, when Vanessa, when they were all on, right? You guys remember the discussion about the traffic light there?
Mhm. They said they'd look into it because I objected to it as well. I agree with Mike and Mary, and I think we should take it away, do a stop sign situation, and then put money back into the Rowayton and sidewalk because $50,000 isn't going to get anything.
You know, to be honest, we put a light in for $500,000 or whatever it was at the time. Maybe it was the 250 on Fort Point Street in East Norwalk, if you know where that is. Right when you go over the Stroffolino Bridge, there was a four-way stop there that worked, or three-way stop that worked just fine for years. And suddenly there's a light that backs traffic up it is, to me, it's created more of a hassle, and we did not need a light there. So we have a new transportation person coming in, a director from Stanford,
That's
Jim
right.
Travers. And I
Right.
think we need to put this on hold until we review all of this traffic light installations, because I think there's other solutions.
Okay, so, well, let's start at the item one. That's, because we're all over the place. Let's quickly go line item on this one here, and yay, nay, or we gotta talk about it. Okay, so the first one, item one, are we okay with the way it is, the finance director?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Item two, safe routes to school.
yes,
I'm okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay with the next three. You guys okay with the next three?
yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Wait,
Well, there's nothing there to request anyway.
oh, sorry,
Yeah.
excuse me, yes.
Item number 6.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
okay. Okay. Item number 7.
Absolutely. But wait,
Okay.
the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't that the one that Tammy just said she wanted it to go up?
Yes. I'd like to take the money from the stop light at Scribner and fully fund that to get it done. There are a lot
Could
of
we
people that
come-
walk to the train station.
Oh, I see. The department requested
Right.
150.
Tammy,
Right.
Tammy,
Yes,
could-
I agree with Tammy.
can we compromise at
What's this?
100 or is that not enough?
well,
Well-
hold on. Before we go over it, do we know the length of Rowayton? Because it says the project entails the installation of sidewalks on Rowayton Avenue, a roadway with high pedestrian activity with no sidewalks. Which portion of Rowayton Avenue are we talking about?
I'm pretty sure they're trying to get the sidewalk from the light where Rowayton Avenue bends at Cudlip Street to connect down to where we have a sidewalk at Pinckney Park, and then also up from the light at Cudlip Street to where it intersects with Jacob and Hunt Street.
Now, I say that only because there's 2 permits for developing multi resident units on Rowayton Avenue. So I don't know if we're gonna put it on the owner to fix their part of the sidewalk. That's why I'm asking. Because sometimes we have them install their new sidewalks.
Yes.
So I'm in support of increasing it, but I just want to know which part of Rowayton Avenue we're talking about, because maybe the 50 grand was only because there's some other movement, other building on that same strip. That's why I only asked that.
What's
And I
the
didn't know
number?
if Steve Kleppen or Brian Baker had any information on those permits.
What number on Rowayton Avenue?
111 and 143 were just
No.
approved.
That's in the
All right.
downtown. That's
So-
nowhere near this. This is up above 210, up to like 300 and something, the numbers of the street. So 140 is in the downtown. Oh, that's right in the downtown, next to the
Okay.
art center. Nothing to do with this at all. And
This,
those are good developers and they are going to redo the sidewalk.
and
That's why I asked.
Okay.
good question, and this is in front of the washing machine church.
Well, the one with the funny roof, it's there, I think they're putting it on the other side of the street because there's a light there and the residents along there have actually requested it. And, you know, trying to. get-
Guys, let's refocus on the sidewalks, right? So,
It is about the sidewalk.
I think that should be the full 150. That,
I say 100. I say 100.
when writing this for the letter of recommendation, the reason is being what?
Because people walk to the train station to and from all along there, and Route 136 is extremely busy and it goes around a bend, which is extremely dangerous. And we've been asking for years and years.
What's everybody's thoughts on this one?
I would like to see 100.
I'd like to see 100.
I'll go with 100.
I'll say
Okay,
100. I'll go 100.
okay, move that to 100 then, okay?
feel like I'm playing the prices right here, but
I know,
We can do it for 100. Hopefully we can.
100,
The
okay?
sidewalk Isn't as good as a third of a sidewalk.
just trying to add a little humor to the situation. But that sidewalk is essential.
Okay.
We've been
You'll see.
waiting for that for years, and it's essential. But the
And
50,000.
Tammy,
Oh, come on.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And Tammy, as we're going over this, I'm looking at the paving and sidewalk installation schedule to see if one of those side roads is on schedule too. Maybe they could do more for you guys over there at the time.
Great. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, next up is the River Valley, which was zeroed out. I'm okay with putting 50 back in.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
I think that's essential.
yes,
Yes.
Yes,
agree.
We got 50 back into that, okay?
And the return on investment on that is, probably tenfold in terms of the property values and quality of life. So it's really important.
I think another thing, anywhere along there where there's development, like up the curb, we need to push the developers to donate money to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd go with the 90,000 on the transportation master plan. I think we've agreed that already.
yes,
have we agreed on putting 90,000 in for the master plan?
yes,
Or can that go out?
Yes.
Okay,
that was yes to keep it, correct?
correct.
yes to fully fund the 90,000. Okay, next up, I'm okay the way it is. You guys stop me. The item, let's see, item 15, leaving it alone.
No, traffic
No,
signal equipment,
out.
number 15, we're taking out the 500,000.
No, we're not taking out 500,000. I didn't agree to take out 500,000.
Didn't we say that was one traffic light and it was the one at Scribner and,
Correct.
I'm sorry, I
No.
thought that's what we were talking about.
No, this is general. This is general traffic signals.
Wait, hold on. Let me check.
This
Yeah,
is general.
this is not the Scribner.
This is anywhere in the city, if I recall. They always put one in or two in.
Oh, yeah, it's 79.
Yes.
Mhm.
Scribner's 17 coming up.
My apologies.
So this is a general, like we said, it's look at the department request. They requested 600,000. I don't know, did the price go up again? I don't know.
I think we should still zero that out. Honestly, the traffic signals equipment, right now, with a new traffic engineer, I think we should hold off on that. And not fund that.
Yeah, but I don't, Mike, it's a traffic light. I don't agree on this one. I think I use the example on Connecticut Avenue. Isn't that great on Connecticut Avenue with all those new signals and everything, when you can go from ShopRite all the way down past Bob's and it's all green lights. Everything is coordinated and all that. That's how I look at these. And tell me if I'm wrong. I look at these traffic signals as essential in the traffic management of the city. Now,
I stand corrected. I'm looking at the page, which is 136 of 204. Fran, you're right. It's not the Scribner. It is reprogramming 86 city-owned traffic lights so that it says they're more than 30 years old, but it's programmed replacement. So I don't know what to do about that. And we've added all these things thinking we're taking that out, thinking it was the Scribner one, but that's not what it says on page 136 of 204.
Right, it's more like a maintenance thing that they do this every year. They either replace old ones, something like that. It's like maintenance.
And the
Yeah, there's only-
Scribner one was for next year, not for this year.
Right, okay. Well,
listen,
maybe we
on
just-
item 15 for a moment, okay?
Mhm.
There's $53,000, whether we take that up or down in the budget. So it's spent on traffic signals equipment. Are we okay with leaving 500K in? I'm okay with it. What's the rest of the?
I say 300,000.
I'm kind of with Mike because we are getting a new transportation person. I like that we're planning. I also, we increased the amount for sidewalks. I think we're going with some principles that we have, which is we're trying to make it more walkable. We're trying to get transportation to make sense. So I'm okay taking it down and we'll put some pressure on our new transportation director.
Yeah, but I would look at the new transportation director make decisions on different things, then it'll get down to traffic lights and traffic lights maintenance. I don't see we hired a traffic director to, I would be looking for that person to develop other plans. That's how I look at it, not to get down to this thing here.
Well,
This
I
is,
agree.
to be clear, this is not for citywide. This is not for all the 81 or whatever the number was that you mentioned in the text of the lighting.
86.
Yeah, this is only gonna handle maybe probably a couple or a few. And I don't see this as essential. This is ongoing. If we cut that down to 300 and we've used the money elsewhere, we've already allocated more in other departments. The NRVT is 50 and we added 100 to the Rowayton Avenue, or 50 to the Rowayton Avenue. That's 100,000.
Yeah,
I
we'll get a number in a few minutes from Brian.
Well, I'd say let 350 or 400 or 300,
I
but
think
not the 500.
You can't do one light with 300,000.
no, it's maintenance. It's not.
It's upgrades for 86. So
No.
it's clearly
That's what-
450,000. It's
Well, it says
upgrades for
here-
86.
Yeah, but it says here, it says ongoing program replacement of existing traffic signals.
Right. They do it every year.
But
And
this
think-
is, I remember, this is one traffic light, okay?
No.
I do
Yes,
believe.
it's one.
It's one, okay? Whether we
Yes.
cut it to 300, it's one. That's to me is the
Yeah.
reality. Do I like this number? No.
So either we leave it in or we take it out.
Take
Yeah,
it out.
we asked this question
That's-
before as to how much it costs for a traffic light, and it comes back to 500,000. I'm not open, my vote is not to take it out and leave it alone the way it is.
Well,
The rest of it,
it's not a replacement of a traffic light. It's upgrading the equipment. So it's not a new light.
It's different, Mike, you're right, it's different, Fran. And I think what we're trying to say here to the transportation department is that while lights are important, there are other things within their purview that don't get the attention that they need. And the lights are always going to need upgrading and maintenance. But how do you get a new sidewalk built? How do you complete the NRTV trail if you just take out the little here and there, when this is a big number and it happens every year? It's sort of every other year they go back 500,000,
but-
1,000.
but how many times, well, I keep going back on this. To me, it's traffic management, and I'm only one vote here, so.
I
Uh,
agree. This is Tamara. I agree with Fran because the sidewalk affects a specific number of people in a specific community. This affects all. And I think the city needs to maintain their traffic signal system. So I'm agreeing with 500.
I'd go with 500,000 with Fran.
Then
Brian, I think we need to take a vote on this.
All right,
Sure.
wait,
Brian,
before we take a vote, could I just ask, because there's also the redoing the intersection, that's the West Belton Mott intersection at 350,000. I'd rather do a plan and I don't know, I'd like to do things that are more about walking and looking more long-term at transportation than short-term fixes that are so car-oriented. So that's my principle. So if you all feel strongly about the traffic signals, then I'd like to talk about, is this the time to be redoing that intersection? for
Well,
350,000.
let's take it one at a time, and I'm gonna
Well,
tell you.
Mary- so, yeah, but Mary's asking, she's gonna do one or the other, but the thing is, the West Belton Mott is to look at a possible rotary there. And that would include bike lanes and crosswalks and pedestrian. That includes an entire kind of synergistic approach to that corner, which is the one end of Wall Street, and a really important intersection of Belden. It's right at the library there. And we've been waiting to look at that for a long, long time. So I wouldn't consider that less of a priority than redoing a traffic light or two. Because again, it's not 86 traffic lights, it's only a couple that we're talking about with the other 500,000.
So Fran, I'm sorry, I messed up your process. You wanted to
No,
take.
no,
a
I
vote.
don't, that doesn't, Mary, it doesn't matter. I mean, since you brought that one up, item number 18, I'm supporting that one the way it is. And on this, the traffic signals, I understand and I hear you on the walkability and all that, but to me, driving, the cars are here and we have to deal with that as well. So we're not all going to be walking or biking. As I've said that before, my legs are too short to bike and I don't do bike. So
So Fran, just to be clear, we've increased by $240,000 expenses in this area, and we haven't cut anything. So that's why I was asking. I was just trying to present some choices of making.
no,
So
it's
if we're-
okay. Everybody, Mary, everybody's free to, this is, you know, we're all, everybody's opinion counts and we take it all. So Brian, please do a roll call on item number 15, whether yes, we maintain the 500 or no, we take it out. Because I think partial funding doesn't make any sense here.
Okay, so to keep it as 500,000, Mr. Lesko,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Ms. Shockley,
Yes.
Mr. Baxendale.
Yes.
Let's see, my order got messed up. Mr. Mushak,
Well, no, but I think it's a moot point at this point.
Ms. Peniston,
No,
Ms. Langalis,
No.
and Ms. DeMeglio.
Yes,
All right, you're the tiebreaker, Fran.
there you go. Okay,
We'll call her,
moving
we'll call her Kamala from now on.
no, no. So
So,
let's go on to item, we okay with number 16? 17 is the way it is. Now on number 18, I support Mike's, I
yeah,
support that, and that intersection. Do we have to take a roll? Do we have to take a roll vote on this one as well?
And can I I would like to give my reason why I think we should zero this out. I don't think that this is necessary for this year. I think we're still waiting for those apartments to be built on Wall Street. There will be traffic. It will not be as heavy this year. So I think we can zero it out for 2022, look at it for next year and use that 350,000 for other resources.
All right, Brian, we're going to roll call on this one.
and to be clear, Tamara, just so you know,
Mhm.
the 350, I recall, was for planning only and not for the actual construction. It's actually going to be I think it's going to be a much bigger project than that. This was for the planning only. So
yeah, it's
It's not-
2.5 million to build it.
yeah,
Okay. Okay,
Anyway,
I
just
still
wanted you to
would
be
say
clear.
zero it out and look at it for next year. So we can say.
Brian Baker,
Okay, so this is to keep it at 350. Mr. Baxendale,
Yes.
Mr. Lesko,
Yes.
Ms. Langalis,
I abstain.
Ms. Peniston,
No,
Ms. Shockley,
No.
Mr. Mushak,
Yes.
and Ms. DeMeglio.
yes. Now,
Did I miss
let me
anyone?
let me
Hold on,
ask
you
this-
never asked me.
Mr. Ferguson, sorry.
Sorry.
I mean, because I can go now if you want me to. I mean, you know,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, sure. I'm for it.
Okay. The order of the faces gets messed up at the bottom of my screen, so sometimes people disappear.
Yeah, but let me ask a question on abstaining. Can somebody abstain from this vote like this?
Yeah, they're not really, I wouldn't say these are formal votes. They're more just a,
Yeah, okay. All right, next page. This is the library. Let's see, what did I skip? Hold on.
Planning and
P&Z.
zoning. The most important, planning and zoning.
let's go with the finance director's recommendations.
What page? Hold on, am I missing a page here? What page are we on? Oh,
They're
planning and zoning. Yeah.
Page IX.
Okay, planning and zoning. I think we should come back to this one. If there's any money left, we'll fund this one. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. We're okay with,
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
there's
Okay,
no
go ahead.
no discussion needed.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, next
No.
is business development.
Business development, okay. My question is, well, I'll tell you right now, take a look at it for a minute. There's no request for item 90, and I don't know why they're all called 1, 2, then it goes to 99 there, if you see on the left. Anyway. Okay, we okay with the first, the 50K there, arts and culture? And the second one, the micro grant program, I sent you stuff. I think it's a notable program, but I sent you some stuff from the state that's doing. I think there are other programs that address this issue. I think Brian Baxendale can do the class for half the money. What do you think, Brian? With your experience and background? And also, you think of entrepreneurship, reading on this, the things, the follow-up that we were given is the consultant will be looking for entrepreneurs or whatever the words are. That's not what in my mind, we shouldn't be hiring a consultant to go looking for people to go into this program. So you can tell me I'm wrong. There are other programs that really address these things. There's a lot of things for entrepreneurs. I like to see something that brings in, businesses in the sense of that hire, that can, offer employment and those kind of things. So maybe I'm off the mark. I don't know, but that's how so I don't see this one as it's a notable program.
I
Go
like
ahead.
I like the idea. I was a part of the chamber had a small business academy every year, September. Corporate sponsors and banks will sponsor this for people, and give or take 40 to 50 people will come for an 8-week session every Tuesday from 5:30 to 7:30. To make a long story short, it would be good if something like this could be encompassed and combined into what they do already and give them a little boost and some micro granting funding. But the city doesn't have to be a part of this. They could just be offering, this support to entrepreneurs and small business owners looking to improve their business. And they get the money after they go through a course of things: marketing, legal, accounting, HR. There's always a piece, and then they go through this piece, and then they can be offered this grant, but not just to give it to a group of people that we're looking for. Maybe the ideal persons will look out and sign up for these courses, and then this will be the result of them signing up and going through the actual course.
Well, the main
Steve,
thing
I'm much more with you on this, because I think I'm with this line as having something in it, because I think there is something the city can do here, but it should be in close liaison or alliance with, for example, the chamber, which does good stuff, or the local score, or the
Exactly,
Women's
yeah.
Business Development Council.
I do
Yeah,
think we
yeah.
need, I do think that there is a need for a grant for small businesses because they do create jobs. But I took the Chamber of Commerce course as well, and I think that that's your pool right there. You don't have to really go look
Yes.
over your pool of entrepreneurs. So if there is like a feeder for a year, maybe 50,000 to see how it operates. And if it is successful in creating businesses and supporting entrepreneurs, maybe we can increase it next year.
I go with
And I say
Cameron.
that,
I'm not looking to
I
fund this.
say that because these,
I'm not looking to fund this at
I know
all.
that that's what we're talking about.
I know, but because, let me just say because, okay, the chamber is an excellent, it's a great example of, you got companies and the entrepreneurs are going through that course. They have some grants available, maybe from, like I said, we talk about corporate sponsorships and other sponsorships. So the chamber is established with that program, and that program has been going on for years and years, and has some grant applicability from, You go through that program and I don't know, whatever the grants, so have a pool of money at the grants level. It doesn't, this doesn't have to be always the city, you know, taxpayers' money coming in. I think there
Yeah,
are many,
yeah,
many
Fran,
other
Fran,
programs.
but there's no grant opportunities in the chamber, Fran. You can't get a
Well,
grant from the chamber. The chamber
I know,
gets,
I'm saying that would be the place to put, to corporate, to open
Yeah.
up a fund.
Can I,
that's not how they actually do it, though.
I know.
I'd like, why am I not?
Go ahead.
I'd like to say that I think, encouraging new businesses to come to Norwalk is a great idea. And if the city wants to help new businesses start establishing a business in Norwalk, they should start by making the permitting process easier. And that isn't a grant.
Thank you.
$100,000. People try to open businesses here all the time and they hit roadblock after roadblock with the permitting process. And I don't know if they teach that in the chamber class, but it would seem to me that we shouldn't have to spend money to do that. The taxpayer shouldn't have to pay for that. So I agree with Fran.
I thought we streamlined that recently, the last couple of years, didn't we, Steve?
I don't know. I was just reading something about an existing business in Norwalk trying to relocate and got nothing but red tape from department after department at City Hall. I wasn't able to verify it, but it came from a reasonably reliable source. And, that's frustrating.
I hear the same things, okay? So we're not gonna solve the permitting process, but I hear the same thing. It's difficult to maneuver, and it's also a misnomer that City Hall is closed, okay? That you keep hearing, City Hall is closed. So my understanding is it's on the website that you could sign up for appointments. I didn't know that there's a customer service in the lobby. Okay, so some of the things that we're not gonna solve here. So go back to where we were. So we stay on track here.
I support finance recommendations. I think it's a good compromise.
I don't support any of it, so that's where I am. I'm at zero with this.
I support Mike at 100,000 or Tamara at 50,000. So we got a placeholder. We can talk with them a little bit more at the economic development level. See what we can build.
I think 100,000 on my end is perfect.
I prefer 50.
75,000 guys.
Don't forget, this was the money.
We're hiring an outside company to do something it's like a consultant.
Yeah, it's not like it's a consultant. It's
Right.
hiring a consultant to go, so we're paying the consultant's salary here.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what
But
this is.
I think it was also, this is why I asked to see the actual quotes they're getting, but do is actually deliver the course as well. But again, that's what we need to understand, I believe, or I'd like to understand anyway. I'll talk with Jessica about it.
Well,
One successful business would
All right.
pay this back 10 times fold. You have to invest in your young entrepreneurs, and I don't see
Yeah,
this
but
as a
So if I can help you all with this line item, this was an individual that worked at the planning and zoning department, Vladimir, who went off to starting the Fairfield County Makers Guild. He has space in the Westport Library where he teaches people the STEM program, coding, 3D design, a lot of hands-on stuff. He's very passionate about teaching the younger generation how to be entrepreneurs with their own skills and mindset. So this piece here, if you look at your binder and look at the 2 paragraphs, it goes in more detail here. This line item is for.
Steve, I don't understand. I remember Vlad, and I
Yes.
applaud his success and everything else. So what did you just say? What's the tie-in to Vladimir here?
I'll tell you. I'll read it off the book. It says, develop a small business entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'm saying,
I'm
what
sorry?
is it? This program is to hire a consultant who's going to be looking for entrepreneurs. Okay, so you're saying this could have
No,
benefited.
it says no.
That's
It
what we
says
got
the
from.
entrepreneur micro grant program will create a fund that will assist entrepreneurs in getting their businesses started in Norwalk.
What we got back from, when we asked for more detail and executive summary from Sabrina, that's what came back with, okay? That what we got in there was about the consultant, I don't have it in front of me here. So anyway, we're spending a lot of time. I'm at 0. Brian, you need to take, I don't know if we gotta do where everybody else is. Majority rules, what's the consensus here?
Well, we had,
One other thing, they were getting in 3 proposals, nothing about a single point solution at this point in time, as I understand it.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason why we should zero it out, if things aren't, you know.
all
Anyway,
right, so for item 1, you're at 50 for that one? Or what are we doing
Yeah.
for 1?
50 for the first one.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
And then, so for item 2, so we'll do a vote to zero it out. So we'll go Ms. Shockley,
No, for zeroing out, no.
Mr. Mushak,
No,
Ms. Langalis,
Yes.
Mr. Baxendale,
no,
Mr. Ferguson?
I want this money to be there, so
No, okay. Mr. Lesko,
No.
Ms. Peniston,
keep it.
and Mr. Meglio.
No,
So that is to keep it.
I don't know what
Fran, you
all that
voted against,
noise
I
was.
think you voted the
but
wrong way, Fran.
yes, you voted the wrong way, Fran.
No, Brian said at the beginning was to zero it out. Okay, so what did I say?
You said
Anyway,
no, but
No,
I think it's still,
You knew
So
what I
now
meant.
we're gonna vote
yeah,
to
I knew what you meant, Fran.
fund the amount. Now are we gonna talk about how much to put in there? Or leave it as at 100?
Are we leaving it at 100 or what are we doing? Leaving it alone?
I'd be all right with 75 if that's gonna make it more palatable for everybody. I mean. but
I'm good with
100 times-
75. I'm good with 75.
I'm good with 75.
I'll go with 75.
Okay, 75.
Fran, you feel better?
No,
All right, so we're moving on to Historical Commission in the Smith
Okay.
Street building.
well, take a second to read this thing here. Make sure we all understand what we're doing. This was what okay, we all set to talk about it. Are we, what do we want to change here?
I'm okay with the finance recommendations on this.
Me too.
Me too.
Okay,
Fine.
okay. All right then. I just want to add that this has always been the most frugal part of our budgeting, okay? And that's what I'll say, so. Okay. Next,
So next we're moving to Arts Commission.
yep. Take a second, let's see. I'm okay the way it is,
So
Second,
am I.
okay? All right, and this is a note to you, Brian, whenever you go, you look at code enforcement and it's got E7 and E7 is also for the parking authority. I don't know if that's a mistake or not. I don't know. Just pointing it out to you. Are we okay with the code enforcement the way it is? Those 2
Yes.
items? Okay,
Yes,
then we go to the parking authority. I'm okay the way it is. Okay.
Yes,
Okay, and then we go to, now the health department, let's see, there's nothing in there for the health department. Okay, never mind. This one, the ADA thing here, I don't know, I should have asked him. I forgot to ask Henry why he's not funding the the ADA, the 80,000, I'm okay for putting it in. What's the rest of you?
Which is that, one?
It's line item number 1 under human relations and fair rent. It was their only request, and I don't know. To me, ADA, we should fund and take care of it.
Yep.
Agreed.
I'm with you, Fran.
Okay, next page. Okay, let's see. Well, we're going down almost we can see the end, I think, here. All right. The library, we have 38,000. Let's see, 38,000 for the newspaper. I mean, I think that was going to be the end and finish it off. So I want to fund you tell me what you think. Fund the newspapers to finish that up. The auditorium, I guess, let me see, laptop dispensers, they didn't ask anything on the laptops, but what's your thoughts on the newspaper? And the auditorium was an issue because it's used a lot. If you guys remember the conversation better than I, what's your thoughts on this? Leave it the way it is, or fund these two things, or fund one?
I agree with the finance director.
I'm good. I'm good with financing the digitization for the newspaper.
I want to see that done, right? I mean, finish it up.
Might as well finish it up, get out the way, because we've been on this for some time now, and people are more digital now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, it's great to be able to search and things online. Except for Tammy, is everybody else okay with the 38,000 over there?
Yes.
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 Yeah,
Okay, so 38,000, we'll put 38,000 in. The auditorium, we'll leave it alone and move on, right?
Yep, moving on to Board of Ed.
Okay, the Board of Ed. I'm okay with 0 with item number 1 there.
Could I just
Agreed.
make one editorial comment, Fran? I don't know if the message could get back, but this is the kinds of place that they should be spending the COVID monies.
Well, yeah, but like Henry said, I mean, the
I know
Board of
it's
Ed.
not,
Yeah.
so for whatever it's worth, just to make a comment in this committee, this is the kind of thing they should be spending the COVID monies on. This is the people that are the most vulnerable, that need the most support. I agree, it's too much for us to spend right now, but if the school system is getting monies and you're thinking about the impact of COVID, you're talking about serving some of the families that are most affected by it. So I know we don't have a choice about that, but I'm making an editorial comment in a public meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we're okay with number 1, with the finance recommended. Now, number 2 is curriculum material and textbooks. And then just let's take one. We'll tell you. Then we got the next one is the instructional technology. So I'm not sure. How about this is what I'm thinking on these 2 items. Okay, I'm thinking of funding half and half. Half of 1.5 or whatever on the instructional technology, curriculum and material. Coming up with half the money. What's your thoughts on item 2 and 3?
I think that's a good position, Fran. I'll go
I
with that.
agree. I agree, Fran.
I agree, and I'm just looking ahead at the bathroom renovation, so.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there.
Later.
Yes. So I'm here, I'm with you on this, what you just said.
All right. So Brian, you got that for item 2 and 3, we're going on half.
We're funding half their request or half of Henry's?
No, half of the request, half of what they requested.
All right, someone's got to do the math for me on 747 divided.
Don't you have your phone?
Do
with
it
the
do that
calculator?
at 370 if you like, or 375.
363,500.
Oh, exactly. Well done.
Thank you, Mary.
I think we
Let you
should
do the
round-
next one, Mary, then.
7,028.50.
Good.
250.
72850.
No, 350.
Read those numbers again for Brian.
Okay, I'm doing this off the top of my head, my goodness.
I thought you had to come the phone.
No, I'm doing it in my head.
Forget the numbers from Mary. Get somebody with a calculator.
I'll do the numbers. so just
Yeah,
give
she
me a
got him
chance.
right. You're right, Mary. Good math.
It is, yeah. Got
See,
it. You are.
my dad taught me well. You do it in reverse order.
Okay,
Five for
all
the
right,
first
so
one.
item number 4. We've been talking about air conditioning, so I'm leaving that alone, since it's been taking about 10 years to get here.
Yes.
Okay, number 5 is the asbestos.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
they have 400, so we'll leave that alone, right? Then let me see, 6 and 7. So this is a bathroom renovations, item 6. This, to me, I've been thinking about this stuff, and this is another thing that I forgot. Well, it wasn't a Henry question, but I don't understand why the schools can be more nimble on these things, meaning, put 4 or 5, I don't know, local plumbers. So that when the doors break in a bathroom, they get fixed, right? The sink doesn't work, it gets fixed. To get to this point of $1.5 million and other things that we heard during the public hearing is really, I don't know what the right word is, but we shouldn't be at this place here, okay?
Agreed.
All right, and it's really aggravating at best for families when we heard, the kids don't go to the bathroom and try to make it home because of how disgusting they are. I mean, it's unconscionable, it's unbelievable, all the words that you can think of. So anyway, here, and we're gonna
I
see
have
where
I
we
have
are
2
with-
kids that go to West Rocks.
Yeah, so now the thing is that which unless you guys have the thing open over there, how much could they use? They're not going to spend $1.5 million. What could we do here to get things going and rolling? And everything doesn't have to go to, excuse me, my opinion. Things shouldn't be left. They have to go to bid. Then you wait a year. They have to be able to, like I said, hire local plumbers, I don't know, small business, whatever it is, bring them in and get the job done. Okay, these don't have to be grandiose, and stop thinking grandiose. Look at each school and what needs to be done. Fix the darn doors. All right, if the sinks are plugged up, fix the sink and get some things done. So who's ever got the book open, what could we fund here? That
Well,
would-
they're asking for the book says for 2022, 500,000 for Nathan Hale Middle School bathroom renovations. 2023, Roten Middle. 2024, West Rocks. 2025, to be determined, and 2026 to be determined.
Okay, what
So
does
they're
this-
looking to do the 3 middle schools.
So for
Right.
$1.5 million is it 3 middle schools?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that what that is? Okay, so we want to fund.
Yes, but they pushed it out. But they push it out each year. So this year for 2022, they're only asking for Nathan
Right.
Hale Middle School for 500,000.
But that was, Steve, excuse me for interrupting, but that was what they originally said, or they put in the book, but then when we had the meeting, they said they wanted the 1.5, and then I don't know if they backtracked again and then said, only one new one. So I'm a little confused, and it seems like the people at West Rocks have the worst bathrooms than.
Yes,
Nathan
they
Hale
actually
Road.
do.
So why would they put out the one that's the worst to do last? I mean, it doesn't really matter to us, right, which bathroom they do or which school they do, but we just need to get them done. It does seem pathetic.
Well, it does matter to us because we look at the bathroom that needs the most work. Prioritizing.
Then maybe they prioritize the ones that need the most work first. Maybe Nathan Hill is the worst, but the people at West Rocks just complained louder.
Well, listen,
Let's just put 500,000 in. That's one bathroom set,
Right,
one school.
one school. Hope it's more than one bathroom.
I was gonna say $1 million to just round it up and see what they can do with that.
Well, I'm gonna put it, I'm gonna propose, and we'll see where we are with the numbers. I was going to propose 1 million, and part of the comments with the letter of transmittal will be that that this doesn't have to, doesn't get transferred to something else. That if the funds are approved through common council, you know, all the way through the process here, that the worst bathroom gets done first and then the second, and to get 2 done. We don't want to be looking, whoever's here, God willing, next year, you know, that this happened and this is what I mean about being more able to do things in a quicker way of these things that need to be done, right? I mean, to me, this is, I'm not going to repeat myself. So I'm proposing $1 million here, and that 2 bathrooms get done.
The only thing I suggest, Brand, they've asked for 500,000 per year. I don't know why they want, according to the notes here, anyway, according to the book, ranking 06, project 06. But okay,
Well, no,
put a million in if you want to do 2 bathrooms. They're only asking you to do 1 bathroom a year.
I know, but why are they asking to do 1 bathroom a year when the bathrooms are so deplorable, right? Why can't they take
I agree
care
with
of
you,
this?
Fran. I think we should approve 1 million, but there should be some stipulation that they have to do it within the year. They have to get this project done. I would not like to see this again next year, asking for more money. Next year, if they're asking for anything, it's for another bathroom for another school.
Yeah, we're not, I said, part of the letter of transmittal, if we go with 1 million here, whatever, that means they gotta get 2 bathrooms done, the worst 2, and get them done, not come back next year. Well, we got the million, we only get, you know, we only got 1 done or whatever. There's plenty of, like I said, I don't know the whole bidding process, you know, there's plenty of companies or plumbers or whatever it needs to sure that they're looking for work and to get it done. So to me, it's not a question of not getting it done, it's having the will to get it done, right? So.
And when you're
You've
saying one
convinced me,
bathroom,
Fran. You
Sorry.
convinced me. I'll go with it.
and when you're saying 1 bathroom, you meaning 1 school, because
Yeah, one school, yeah,
One
there's
school.
boys,
Two
there's boys and
schools.
girls, and there's multiple bathrooms as well.
one school. We'll be clear, one school.
I'm okay, I'm all right with the million.
You only need a 500,000 per school, friend. So
I know, I want them to do, I want them to do 2 schools.
2, right?
I'm at the point of, to me, the bathroom is a, what's the right word?
Fran, it's a matter of public health.
It's a
There you go. Okay, public health, it should be done and no other conversations needs to be had, okay? Get
Yeah.
on with it, get it done, get the kids that they can go to the bathroom in the school instead of exploding by the time they get home, okay? So anyway, I'm putting down 1 million. Brian, you got that one? Brian Baker,
All set.
okay. All right, do we have any, let's see, go down. Any questions on,
That one's
what are we
fine.
gonna talk about? Okay, go look at number 13 that we had up.
Sorry, don't jump over number 7 because they increased it from 130 to 270. What is that? Hold on.
No, finance didn't recommend any,
They've got 1.5 million in the account.
right?
Oh,
Well,
okay.
the fuel tank replacement, they got 1 million plus in there, so,
No, but am I looking at this wrong? Am I getting bleary eyed? Oh, they put it to 0. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong line. Sorry.
okay, all right, so,
My bad.
is somebody trying to talk and we're not hearing you? We're not hearing you? Okay, so I'm jumping down to, I'm okay with the rest. I'm going to the silver mine. So last year they were, and we heard the public hearing. They were authorized 80,000 for the design or whatever, right? As we can see here, this is not a thing that we're not supporting silver mine or all the things that the parents said and all that. But the design hasn't been done. So 1.5 million can move out because there's no design and there's no, it's not gonna get done. $1.5 million is not needed there. That's why I don't know how you guys feel.
Well, I think they can design it in a couple of months. It's not going to be rocket science to figure it out. And I that is bad. I really think that has to stay in.
Yeah, but it hasn't been done in a year, right? I don't see this being done by June.
I think they can get the design done quickly and
Silvermine is used throughout the year. They have a summer camp that the YMCA uses when they left West Avenue. They have a summer camp there, and they utilize their parking lot to go to the fields. And that parking lot does need help, does need work. And all the way to the back of the school is all brittle and cracking. It just needs to be a better flow for the buses going in and out.
I know.
It's
Listen,
kind of blocked in half.
We're not arguing the need for it. Remember last year, we had a lot of public and everything else. So 80,000 is here. Why it hasn't been done, I don't know, right? I don't understand why the design hasn't been done.
well, I think we have to look at the whole. That's a good question, Fran. I'm not dismissing it at all. I think we have to look at COVID. We have to look at the fact that a lot of the DPW department retired. They took the early retirement program, so we lost a lot of staff and they're ramping up again. But I don't think that we should penalize the children and parents and the neighborhood for the fact that the design wasn't done in a timely manner as we expected, because for whatever reason that wasn't done. I think that they have until June. There's the bid process, et cetera. So I'm not sure how long this is going to take, and I'm not going to guess as to when it can be done. It would be great to have it done in the summer, but I think we need to move ahead with this. That school has been penalized because it's was never designed to be the kind of school that it is, with all the buses coming in from all over.
Okay, so I don't know who has control over why the design wasn't done, right? I don't know how the process.
That's DPW. I'm pretty sure the design of the schools has always been done by DPW, and they've had.
But somebody on the Board of Ed needs to be driving that, right? It's not done. Right, this is under the Board of Ed.
Yeah, well, like I said, I know they've had staff upheavals at the DPW over the last year, plus COVID, when everything was shut down.
The pandemic has been an upheaval for everybody. So I don't know. I'm conflicted on this one because I said the design isn't done. Throwing $1.5 million to it. Like I said, it's not that we're not supporting. We heard the parents, we heard the public. Okay, and just say, well, put the money in there so it's there. And nobody's saying, no, the money shouldn't be there, but should it be there this year? That's the question when the design's not done. What's the rest of the group feel?
I think the sum should be reduced to at least 1 million only and 500,000 the year after, or some other number, to the point that, again, I'm not quite sure how they get around to spending it in this particular time period if they haven't planned for it.
Right. Anyway, what's the rest of the group so that we come to a consensus?
Let's see some money.
Need to be done, but I don't think they're ready for it. So,
John, you're not coming through, John. John Lesko, we don't know what you said.
the computer might work anymore.
Not sure if any of you understood what John said. I don't know.
No, I didn't.
Well-
If everybody else mutes, maybe we could hear him better.
John, can you say what you said before? We didn't understand what you said.
Yes, it was a necessary project, but the plan is not complete. We go for this year.
No, there's something wrong with your microphone and I'm not understanding. You're coming off like those artificial voices. Don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry. The rest of you, Steve Ferguson, where are you on this one?
I'm for it.
For what amount?
I would say $1 million.
Tamara, where are you?
For it. And I'll go with $1 million. I don't want 1.5 because they haven't really gone forward with the design yet. So there needs to be some push on that.
I'm proposing 750 myself, but what's the rest? Who haven't I heard from?
You haven't
What-
heard from me, Fran. I support the idea and hopefully they could do it for less than $1.5 million. So I think I'd support 750. I don't know if it's economically feasible, but
Well, 750, if we go 750 this year and 750 next year, but at that time, hopefully the design will be done and they're ready to go. I mean, I don't know how long the whole, bidding and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
it
goes out.
isn't just repaving the parking lot. So hopefully all these people that are affected by it know what the solution is. And hopefully, whoever designs it in DPW knows what the solution is. And then it's just a matter of getting somebody to do the work.
Right.
Well, and just to be
Cool.
clear, it's building a whole new
Yeah.
ramp, like a giant ramp that comes off the Perry Avenue down into the parking lot. So it's a huge amount of earth moving and filling, et cetera. So they're really just building another entrance to the parking lot. So it is a huge project. I don't even know if $1 million, I'm all for the full amount, but I would compromise to $1 million. The 750, I think, is unreasonable.
How long would it take to do this project, do you think, Mike?
Well, what's it say in the book? We're not here guessing on projects and stuff, right?
I'm not sure it got into that detail, did it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they did. Well, the only reason I proposed 750
few
is
months.
they're not going to spend, my own opinion, which is, good, better, and different. They haven't done the design. They're not going to be spending $1.5 million. I want to put some money in there. Yes, we are serious about the project, of course, and the safety of everybody, but it's not going to get done. Is there anybody here who thinks it's really going to get done between now, the whole thing between now and next year? I'm not convinced. Anyway, what's the consensus on the amount of money?
1 million.
1 million.
I
One,
need to-
1 million.
Okay, so we got 4.
1 million.
All right, we're gonna put down $1 million.
it should be 1.5, but I'll be okay with $1 million. And I think it'll get done this year.
Mike, remember,
Wow.
don't forget your COVID dollars.
Yeah.
Let's leverage those COVID dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
also writing down that Mike said it's gonna get done by next year, so.
I really feel sorry for everybody that has to deal with that.
No, we
Every day.
understand, we're not supporting, we said that.
It's
Okay.
timing
Yeah.
too. I mean, anyway.
Anyway, jumping down to redevelopment, I think we're done with the Board of Ed.
Are we leaving the
Uh,
rest of the values for the same?
I'm sorry, the rest of the stuff, well,
It
We
there's
had
not that much.
8
Yeah,
and 10. We're
I'm
leaving those the
sorry?
same?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and yes.
Okay, so redevelopment. Here's that question, Mary, that you asked about, that we said, it's always that they always ask 500,000 and 250 gets approved. I'm okay with the finance director on that one. And the facade.
Can I just say, I understand in this environment, but it concerns me. And I'm so glad you sent out that link, Fran. I'm just really concerned. We have to pay a lot more attention to affordable housing. I feel hesitant to push for the extra money right now, but I'm concerned about, we've got to pay more attention. Even though we have higher percentages than other towns, what we consider affordable housing is not within the grasp of many working families with 2 incomes. I won't do the math here at this meeting, but I just want to make a statement that we need to pay more attention to this, but I won't fight on this one because I wasn't clear about how they would use the other 250.
Okay, thank you. The facade improvement, I'm okay with the finance director's recommendation there. You guys okay? Okay,
Agreed.
Yes.
all right. On information technology, I'm okay with funding the whole thing. I regret that I didn't ask about, more in the state that we're in, more automation, with doing things online with City Hall. There's a department, I'm not sure you can do, anyway, I regret not asking the question about moving forward towards a really electronic business model for the department, okay? And because I've looked at things online at the City Hall level, and we're still, I won't call out departments, we're still in certain departments, you can ask for something online, and then paying for it, they have a form that you fill out the old-fashioned way, where you got to put your credit card number in, and you mail that in with your request. It's kind of, and that's the kind of thing that opened my eyes and saying I was remiss in not asking that question on information technology for the city. So I would like to see more of that, automate, pay online, get things online. And those of you that deal with, Tim, with other towns, I keep hearing that other towns are more up to speed on that. So anyway, having said, I'll stop. We okay with funding the full?
Yes,
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
All right, Brian Baker, it's time for your magic numbers. What do we look like, and what do we have to revisit?
Well,
Look at the-
so right now, it's on the screen. So grand total is 29,691,822.
Okay, there's
So-
your 5 million increase that you had suggested, Brian.
Well, hold on. It's a bigger number that I wanted to get to. So 29 what?
691,822.
691,822. Okay, so how does everybody feel about coming back on Thursday and re-looking at the things that we we had some things highlighted, and re-looking at this number a little bit. We went up on things, and maybe we gotta take a next stroke of the pen to reduce some things that we didn't do on this.
The
I'm
only
okay-
issue I have is I
Fran.
have a hard stop at 7.
And I'm okay to go back right now and look at those other numbers. I'm okay with the number where it is, plus whatever it is we're gonna add into the highlighted numbers.
Yeah, I'm not okay with going rehashing everything. Right now, the brain doesn't work
Fran,
on rehashing.
Fran, may I just ask a question? What
Yeah.
does the 29 million tally to? If I go to the bottom of the finance recommendations for 2021, 2022, they total 28,591.
Yeah, but you
And we've
missed
been
that,
using their numbers.
Brian, you missed a bit, most of, I don't know, were you here for any of Henry's,
No,
I don't
Brian's,
remember.
Brian's right.
Brian has a
Brian's-
good point.
He's
Let me-
right.
Let me finish. You guys, remember I asked the question of Henry, the one number we should be targeting to, right? Not the 29 or the 28, it was a 28 number. And then you got the revenues, right? So if the revenues, anyway, so let me back up my own thing here. So you're saying he was at 28, we're at 29, then if we
No.
put the
No,
revenues.
we're at
in-
23. Look down, further down. Scroll back down. We're at 23, 294 after revenues.
Okay, so I thought we were there at 29,
Well,
sorry.
we were up above, but there was confusion, so.
Well, that's gross. So this is gross. This is our gross number is 29,691,822.
Yeah,
That's
So it's-
gross. And then when you factor in revenues, we drop down
Right,
to this.
and that,
So where are we up from, who's got the calculator? So he was at 22.1 and we are,
We're 1.1 above.
Exactly.
okay, that's a good number. then.
Okay, can I just,
I agree.
I hate to confuse things, but can I just ask a quick question?
I'm not sure. How confusing are you gonna be, Mary? So,
Just
go
because,
go ahead.
I just want to go back. Can I just see where you ended up with engineering? I think that's the only place we didn't add any numbers as placeholders. We left them as zeros.
Look at those yellows. Brian, what did you have highlighted in yellow we were gonna go back to?
So you have athletic fields under
No.
Parks and Rec.
No, this was under engineering under C.
Hold on, we'll get to that. So we have, how many yellows do we have?
Okay,
The
Yeah.
stormwater,
4, I believe. So you have water course maintenance and stormwater management plan.
okay, Mary, is your question towards something else of engineering or this is the?
Those
this
were
is
the two. I just wanted to ask if we were gonna, our total was, we had said we'd go back to those. So I just wanted to ask the question. I'm gonna argue if we're only $1 million over at this point, I'm with Brian Baxendale. I don't think we have to so strictly hone to the 22.2 million. If this is important to us, I'm willing to go back and increase some of the numbers. So I just wanted to ask the question because I had a note that we wanted to revisit those. And those are the only two I had noted that we didn't have any number in that we wanted to consider.
All right, what's Brian, move over the thing. What's the finance recommended on these two? Can't see it
So-
on the screen.
500,000 for,
500,000 for water course maintenance.
Now they had 3.7 million in the budget, so that might have
Oh,
been.
I see, sorry.
Not
No,
in the
no, you're
budget.
right, Brian. So they have a 500,000 they're recommending. They had 3.7 million in the budget, but you all had said you wanted to add another 500,000. And we also talked about the stormwater management where they totally decimated the 837,000. I would recommend that we put 500,000 there and leave the other as is.
I'll go along with that, Mary.
So
I'll
500,000.
agree with that. That sounds like a good plan.
Well, hold on, 500,000 in water course maintenance, is that what you said?
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
Stormwater management plan, line number 10. Line number 10, they have nothing in available. They asked for 837,000. They were zeroed out. We're saying put 500,000 back in.
Yes.
Does the
Yeah,
rest of the
agree.
group? Okay, everybody agree with that one? Put in 500,000?
Yes.
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 Okay, 500,000 in stormwater management. Okay,
And then I wanted to ask a question. There were, we had two questions out to the finance director under recreations and park. We had a question about why the 750,000 for Veterans Memorial Park, the docks, as opposed to the 425. And there was one item where there was nothing requested under athletic fields and they added 50,000.
so Steve Klepper, what did you get back?
Nothing. I'd emailed him right a while ago about the conservation thing and he got back to me like half an hour ago, but he didn't get back to me about the other one. I also copied Nick Roberts and Ken Hughes. I haven't heard from anybody. On
Did you
those two questions.
call anybody up?
No, I don't have all their cell phone numbers to call them. No.
You have Henry's, did you have Henry's cell phone number?
No, I don't think so unless it's, I have his, well, there's one mobile on here, but I'm not sure if that's a work one or a personal one.
It's not good that I have Henry's and you don't have Henry's.
Haven't had a need for it until tonight.
Yeah. So we need to get, let me just go back. We're done under engineering, correct? We put
No,
that
we still need
500
water course maintenance, line item 8.
So line item 8, water course maintenance, we leaving alone the way it is, 500K?
Yes.
Okay, so we're
So
leaving that.
water course maintenance, I recommended, go to $1 million there. In other words, from 500,000 to $1 million. We've already agreed to go 500,000 on the storm water management plant. plan.
Brian, the reason I was saying that was because they had 3.7 million in current available funds.
Right.
I'm okay with leaving it alone, Brian, only because they got that money in there. I mean, 3.7 million, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay. I back off. You're right.
That's the only reason that there's
Yeah.
a,
3 points. Yep.
But recreations and park, there were the 2 questions under C3 recreations and park. Line item number 7, they were asking for 425. Finance recommended 750. We think it's because they were doing the docs, but we weren't sure and wanted to clarify. And
Yeah.
on line number 17, they're asking for 50,000 when there was no request from the Department of Athletic Fields.
I say in lieu of having another meeting and all of that entails, we can put in finance recommended for these 2 items. And then if it changes, we can change this with the letter that Fran writes. I think that would be okay to do that.
no, but I want that, no, we're not gonna have another meeting. We're just finishing up here.
Oh, good.
Steve Kleppen, you need to get the answers to us tomorrow, right? To those questions that we asked, right? And then, depending on what the answer is, right? And we're all gonna be on email. And we transmit it that way, saying, this is.
But I think for the public though, we need
So-
to plug these numbers in.
Do you mind if so when we were going over it with Nick made a couple corrections. So he noted for Veterans Park, it's supposed to say 750,000, not 425K.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah,
That-
and
that
then
answers that-
I don't
that
have an
answers-
answer on the athletic fields though. I don't know if
Okay, so the 750, we're leaving alone. We're putting in on line item number 7 under recreation and parks, right?
Yeah,
For Vets Park, we're leaving alone 750, right?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, we don't have an answer on line item 17, which they
Um,
requested nothing, and there's 50,000 put in by the finance director.
unless that is the backstop fencing, which Nick Roberts said we can push back a year, if that's what that item is for.
No, backstop fencing is line 13.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so we need to hear from Henry as to why he put in 50,000 when there's no request from the department, okay?
And could you please check on, under C4 for buildings? Can you please, I want to just make sure that on item number 5, we added, correct?
What, C5 where, Mary? Oh, hold on, before we leave, hold on, Brian Baker, hold on. Before we leave the item on athletic fields, okay? Having no department request, right? We don't have, we're gonna zero that out. There's a 50,000 in there, which we're gonna put a 0 because there's no department request. Unless there's an explanation from Henry as to why the 50,000 was put in.
And
I
also,
would,
the line above, we said 25,000, not 50,000, which was the open space fund. We said we wanted to just make sure there was something there, but we lowered it to 25,000. Is that correct? Is that what we decided?
No.
Yes,
Oh, am I wrong? I'm sorry, Brian, excuse me.
No, I thought we decided on 50,000, voted on it.
Okay. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. I had a question mark with 25,000. Okay.
no, we went with the whole 50. on
Okay.
that.
Okay. My apologies. Got it.
No, it's okay. So Brian Baker, we're zeroing out line item number 17 on the recreation and parks. Unless we hear for a compelling reason why that 50,000 was added in,
Okay.
okay? So tomorrow, so go ahead. What was the next thing, Mary? What were you?
Please go
talking
down to
about?
the section that's C4 buildings. I just want to see what's on for item number 5. Good. It's good. Great. Thank you. And then I have under transportation E2. Line 7 should be 100,000.
Yes,
Then line
Yeah,
10
we-
should be 50 and line 14 should be 90.
That's where we are.
Okay, and then on business development tourism, E4 on line 2, it should be 75. Good.
Right.
And under human relations and fair rent, F2, under 1, we replaced the entire 80,000. That's it. Okay, I just was checking everything I'd written down, we changed.
Okay, so, Brian, tomorrow, if you don't mind,
What's our
we're-
bottom line?
yeah, what's our bottom line?
So grand total, 31,441,822. And then when you factor in revenues, you go down to 25,044,282.
We're less than 3 million over.
So we okay? What do we think of that number? We,
I'm good with the number. I don't know about you all, but I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I'm good.
I'm good with it.
okay, this is where we are. So Brian, I know there's a letter that, you plop the number in and we vote on the letter.
Yeah, let me do that right now.
I have to admit, this team is very efficient tonight. I'm impressed.
We've
I
never done it. Go ahead, sorry.
agree.
I agree.
Better if we had Uber Eats delivered to everyone at their door.
You
I
still
think it
want
would've
your,
ta-
you
I
still
think
want
it
your-
would have taken us longer if we had been at the table and we eat some, some pie, you know, the Fat Tuesday pie and some pizza and stuff. But
I still want your mom's dish for Fat Tuesday, Fran.
I know, if, when we get together, it's a thing that you gotta taste, I'm telling you.
Didn't we walk out in the dark last year? So it was, it
Yeah,
was like
we
after
left.
midnight?
It was 2 o'clock in the morning and there were no lights. You couldn't see the hand in front of your face, if you remember. So it wasn't,
I walked the
Yep.
ladies to their car. I remember that.
yep. So, all right, here's the
So
letter.
what do you think the difference was between the 2 years? This is amazing. This is like half the time.
Well,
We still
now
talk-
we have now we have Tamara Shockley. That's why.
Yeah,
That's
tomorrow,
right. That's right.
All right.
And,
All right,
and we
let's-
have Mary Peniston and
Let's
Tammy
do-
Gallup.
hold on here. So
And
the
I didn't even
resolution,
try to translate anything, Steve.
okay, refocus. Where's the, Brian Baker, where's the number on here? I don't see the number. Oh, right there. Okay, highlight it. So I make the motion, and Brian, please double check your numbers and formulas and everything else, right? Tomorrow with
Sure.
a bright eye and make sure that we didn't make any, there's no, circling formulas and we didn't make any mistakes on here. So I'm proposing, the resolution for the capital budget for year 21, 22 to read, it's 31,441,822. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, that's the capital budget recommendation, minus any, things that we get back on the question that we answered or anything that Brian finds. Okay, anything else? We good?
Could I ask that Brian send us that final spreadsheet so we can all have it?
It
Sure, I
be-
will
you-
send it right
you-
now.
No,
Let me just
listen,
make a couple edits.
no, Brian,
Yep.
you there? Okay, I want you to look at before you send it out, look at it for any other things that might be wrong with it, right? So
Yep.
check it out tomorrow. We're gonna get the answer back from Henry, right? Pending that answer as well. And then you send it out, but the spreadsheet will be, so the letter to the mayor is due on March 5th. And as to why we went this way and recommendations and the reasoning and all that kind of stuff. So I may ask, some of you or all of you, or whatever, whoever wants to, on some, some of the explanations that we have as part of our, looking at the budget and the reasons why we came up with certain numbers, and the numbers that we went up. That's what we have to, explain more in the budget. We, explain our rationale for why we put the numbers up and why we are where we are. Okay, so that'll be coming up. That's the next project that's due in by the 5th. I'll reach out to you guys and then we'll take it from there. Okay,
Okay.
thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Thank you all for the time.
Thank you,
So
Brandon.
listen, do we have a motion to
I
adjourn?
move,
Have a
I
motion
move to adjourn.
I
Second.
second.
Thank you, everybody. We'll be in touch. Be well.
Good night,
Thank you,
Diana.
guys.
Good night,
Night.
Diana.
Good night. Ciao.